Let's get it. Happy race day, virtually from Brazil in the Formula STEM Esports Cup presented by Brightspeed Fiber Internet, the racing challenge where we've seen high school students compete in F1 24, explore STEM careers, all while competing to win $5,000 in scholarships and prizes. My name is Bear Light, your host, joined in the booth as always by no other than Lane X and TJ. And I want to go to Lane first, a bit of a send to our roots here today in Brazil.
Absolutely, super excited to be casting today the Brazilian GP. Look at my shirt, man. I think I'm ready, right? I'm super excited. Yeah. These colors are beautiful. So it's going to be great to be with you guys again today.
Dressed to impress. TJ, welcome to the show, man. How are you?
Doing good. I can't say I'm as well dressed, but I already had my Red Bull shirt brought out a few weeks ago for the Red Bull ring. So I've already done my part. Just excited to get to the racing today.
We're very excited to be bringing you the action in part by Brightspeed Fiber Internet, who's here now with ultra-fast speeds for all your streaming, gaming, and work needs. No more dead zones, just reliable coverage everywhere in your home. So check to see if Brightspeed Fiber Internet is available in your area by typing !Brightspeed into the chat. And thanks again to Brightspeed for your involvement in this awesome opportunity for students. Well, if it's your first time here, you need to get caught up on the format. First of all, where have you been? Number two, the format itself, 6 regular season weeks. And guys, we are now in week number 3 of that regular season, all towards the championship event that will take place on May 13th, TJ.
It's passed so quickly, Bear. I mean, we're already halfway through the season, and I feel like that we've only just gotten started in terms of learning what these racers are capable of and exactly what they're made of when the pressure gets to its peak. And we got to see a lot of that last week, not to mention how the Red Bull Ring was the week before that as well. But here you go with the format. Things are pretty linear. It looks like, based off what we know, that we are only going to have one qualifying group today, which means that a lot of this you don't have to worry about too much, but we'll try to make sure we translate throughout the day for you.
Obviously, eyes are upon the prize, aka the playoff qualification. So, Lane, I'll go to you here with this one. We've seen 5 racers to this point in time make the playoffs just simply by placing on the podium, including a newcomer that just came last week. So it really goes to show you that a podium finish can get you to the playoffs, but also if you're not able to land a podium finish during the season, there's still a playoff spot for you available through points.
Absolutely, you're correct. We have the chance of seeing those drivers, fighting for points, fighting for the podium itself, and those two, let's say, fronts of the competition are gonna help us to see those are gonna be making it up to the championship. It is a very democratic format that allows you to every week have a chance and get yourself better day after day, GP after GP.
Of course, when you have your eyes on the prize, you try to get to the podium and really push towards that. No more difficult time than these drivers might have, as we'll get into the details of the race in just a little bit. But of course, Formula STEM Esports Cup is all about learning about the opportunities that exist within F1. That's one of the really cool things about this activation. And of course, you see the point structure on your screen right now. With first place, you pull in that 50 points. If you don't finish, in fact, we saw a DNF from Top Racing, for example, had just 1 point for participation, for example. But that GP, you see the points laid out in front of you. Obviously, you aim towards that podium, but if you can't make it, you're after as many points as possible there, TJ.
I mean, luckily for him, he already earned his spot. He was P1 in the very first race of the regular season, so he doesn't have to worry about the playoffs. So now it's more so scrimmage racing for him. Not a whole lot of high stakes, but you mainly need to assert your dominance back into the fray this week, especially when the rain comes out as well, which again, we're going to talk about later.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we've got our STEM job in racing. We want to review what we saw last week, which was the operations and logistic manager, which obviously when you have to travel country after country in a format like formula racing in general, not just F1, you have to make sure that all those materials get there, and Lane, that starts from a manager who's going to make sure that you have all the money necessary and all the equipment gets to the right place at the right time.
Correct. This week we're talking about the marketing manager, right? And coming from the ops and logistics operations specialist last week, we were talking about the marketing manager today, which is a very, very key role to keep those campaigns rolling, to keep the awareness on the sport itself rolling and active. Not only the teams or the drivers, but the sports itself. And it's cool to see how creative it is of an area, right? So those students who feel they have a creativity flow or sway, they could definitely go for this job.
TJ, I mean, it's every industry really needs marketing to really aid and grow their brand, and F1 is no different.
Yeah, marketing is a beautiful field. No matter if you are artistically creative or in a different way, very original in your thoughts and ideas in rolling out advertising plans, marketing can encompass many different aspects of advertising, whether it's, again, like I mentioned, graphics, or it is more physical, hand marketing, whether it's posters, or whether you're telling your friends or you're posting on your social medias. There's so much to do, and in Formula Racing, there is such a wide fan base to appeal to, so many different things going on around, and you can also learn these skills from many different areas. And as you can see on this graphic, University of Pennsylvania, University of Michigan are some of our exact recommendations, but the good news is that if you're looking for sports management, a lot of major D1 schools can fill that role and fill that learning for you.
Yeah, there's so many different avenues as well. Let's talk art and design. Graphic design will go into a lot of the posts that you see, especially in F1, or video editing to make sure that that video looks sharp whenever it goes into the airwaves across social media. Plus, there's a lot of certifications out there too that you can look into, including digital marketing, social media strategy, or graphic design, like I mentioned, in addition to that. And the best ways to get those jobs is, well, simply networking, of course. I mean, that's the number one way to really secure any job, to be honest, as we know very well in the casting scene. But in addition to that, there's trade shows, workshops. You can, they recommend that you apply for entry-level roles like marketing assistant and social media assistant as well. So it really does go to show you that with Formula STEM Esports Cup, they show you exactly where to apply and how to connect. But networking has been everything for us in the casting world as well, Lane.
Networking is everything. Also showing your qualities out there, even on social media, could be essential as well as a beginning step and as a first step for yourself. As a content creator, I can say, right, showing my work, try to pitch my ideas out there every day is a challenge. It's interesting, it's rewarding. So that's something to keep in mind.
Yeah, it's always good to learn these certain traits. But speaking of learning, all these the students that are here in Formula STEM Esports Cup, these racers got to learn the track here at Brazil, and that was in the test session last Thursday, TJ, where we got to see Ryan Vargas return, the pro NASCAR driver on the track on the course. Really being able to showcase what kind of level talent he has, but also be able to use and explain those skills to these students. That way they can hit the track running here this week.
Brazil, there is a lot to learn, and we're going to talk about the track in a little bit as well, but I'm glad that we have professional racers who dedicate their time every week to come out, because not to mention the weather that's going to be in effect, not to mention how difficult a track like this is, there's a reason why on the actual Formula One calendar, Brazil is towards the end. It's because it is a action-packed, very high-octane race that always seems to develop some sort of chaos, which we've gotten very used to this season.
We certainly have. And if you want to be able to get used to that as well and get used to these tracks as a racer, or even if you're not competing yet in Formula STEM Esports Cup, you have an opportunity to register, number one, but also if you're generally speaking looking to learn these tracks, no better place than Thursdays at 5 p.m. Eastern Time here on this channel. So make sure that you follow if you're on Twitch, subscribe if you're on YouTube, and then you'll be good to go. So that will continue this Thursday as well as we look through Spa-Francorchamps this Thursday in preparation of the Belgian GP, which will be next week in Lane. I can't wait for that one either.
I can't wait for that one either. I think it's going to be a natural progression when it comes to the challenges the drivers are going to face, because, as you know, it's got the highest peak on elevation when it comes to all the other racetracks. It's very high. So the trend that we're going to be setting today with the Autódromo José Carlos Pace, if you allow me to use my Portuguese here, right? Our Interlagos Brazil GP of today is going to be already a starting point on that matter. So the drivers are going to definitely carry some knowledge, some information from today to the next GP.
Well, guys, let's talk about last week, because we had a lot develop last week, including Top Racing, who was live in STEM Racing USA and Canada National Finals, which I got to attend last week, which is super cool. If you haven't looked into that, certainly worth the avenue. You can check out last week's video and VOD and be able to see what they were doing, but not in his usual setup, which means he fell a long way. It was no need dude who had a very good performance, TJ.
He looked incredible in week 1 of the regular season. Unfortunately, he had some major qualifying issues with that one lap that you get in the GP, and he did fall, but he has made a very, very nice return from that fall, getting P1, clinching a spot in the championship. Ian Hawk is now our only driver to finish twice in the top 3 spots, and Nico Bico, out of nowhere, looked incredible throughout the race, made all the right strategy calls, and was able to work off of what was a race that I believe had, I think if my memory serves me correct, it was 4 DNFs and 6 drivers with penalties or something like that. So it was absurd to see happen, and I'm just glad that for those 3 drivers they were able to make it happen. And Ian takes a spot away from the rest of the grid as well.
Yeah, because, I mean, number one, because you place podium twice, so we talk about the epitome of consistency, and Ian Hawk, the first one that comes into my mind for sure. So when you place on the podium twice, you're already taking a spot away, since we are not going to award another one there. So playoffs will, that adds another spot via points. So you saw the points on the right side of the screen that they earned from last week, including 24K King already on the podium. But next up would be Illegal Monkey. You talked a lot about him and James there last week, Lane, and the reason why they've earned so many points last week to try to get to the playoffs at the end of the day.
Telling me that he was, trying to do his best so far in the season. Now about today, he doesn't know how things are going to be rolling because of the rain itself, and his times, he was telling me, are not so far the best. But I mean, I told him, hey, race is race. You gotta go there. You gotta make sure you deliver the best in the field. So I am confident that, again, he's gonna be able to match my expectations. I got a quick message to him. Illegal Monkey, you matched my expectations so far. So keep working, keep pushing the hard work so far. It's gonna pay off totally.
A couple names there at the bottom, 9 and 10, respectively, Joseph and Squeaky Hardware, who's really been in the equation, but unfortunate finishes there, including last week, 9th and 10th, when it could have been a lot higher. Let's check out 11 through 20 as well, as we wrap up the rest of the line from that last week, where we see Cry, Mao, and Doe. Doe's running into trouble a couple of times with a couple of wrecks, but the biggest notation on this page, TJ, has got to be Top Racing with the DNF.
Yes, and also Speed Ninja and Saturn had DNF'd as well. And then also 17, you'll see there's 2 Speed Ninjas. That was actually Mr. Saipo Trey who filled in that spot. So 3 DNFs at the bottom there. Saipo Trey taking the last spot. And then outside of that, a big mess. Top Racing really early on in that race was hit in the rear, lost his entire back wing, and was forced to retire after trying to nurse that car around. But I mean, he was fighting a losing battle. And the rest of the grid, in terms of 10 to 11, have stayed mostly the same. There is a few new drivers who made their way in. Talking about Doe Jr., talking about AN80, who's been around with the preseason but couldn't make it for week 1 of the regular season, I think after he DNF'd as well. And all these drivers still battling for any points they can get, because that fight, once we get to the last regular season race, should be extremely close.
Yeah, oh my goodness. I mean, with the newcomers coming in and making that impact, you're 100% right. Talking about Nico Bico out there able to land a podium on your first week just goes to show you that if you haven't already started with Formula STEM Esports Cup, it's still not too late. You can hop in, get a podium, and go to playoffs, which is wild to me. Speaking of playoffs, let's check out where we are in the standings. Let's go to bring that up as we see that 5 drivers, as we mentioned earlier, have made the podium through the first 2 weeks, through the first 2 regular season GPs, and have secured their their spots in the playoffs. They are Top Racing, 24K King, Ian Hawk, Noni Dude, and of course, like we mentioned, Nico Biko, part of that conversation as well. First up in the points here lane would be Squeaky Hardware.
Right. Squeaky Hardware has got a tough mission ahead of himself today. He has not been so lucky in the last 2 GPs, having some slight mistakes, obviously going through the pit lane eventually faster, getting those penalties, and all these elements, are kind of taking him out of the playoffs so far. But I'm confident that he's going to be one of those guys, putting it out nicely today and maybe having a spot. And interestingly, when you talk about the top 4, all these guys, Americans, all these guys, doing their best to keep at the top. And Top Racing began as, the guy we talked about when it comes to Legacy. Now he's a little bit more challenged, as you can tell by the numbers.
And, one name that appears on this top 10 list that I am less familiar with is Tonicius, I believe it's pronounced. I haven't seen a whole lot of them out of West Leyden High School, but love to see them on the top 10. Means they're sneaky good, being able to get in that top 10 with the 46 points that you see. Let's go ahead and check out 11 through 20 now as well. Nico there at that 11th spot. As you can see, you enter 1, you get 36 points, but it doesn't matter when you hit the playoffs. But Mao and Proto closely behind them, TJ.
Big gaps that will slowly get even bigger throughout the season because of the way the point system works. There is so much to gain per individual place within the GP, and now we're getting to the point of the season where just making it to the GP consistently may just be the key to getting you in there. But also, I know we already passed it, but I do have to mention this briefly. You guys completely skipped over Siegel. He is the only person in this entire bracket, or this entire group of racers, to finish in the same spot 2 weeks in a row. He was P7 both times around, so he has actually been the most consistent driver on the grid, and I'm very excited to see what he can bring to Brazil.
No doubt about it. Well, that is your standings as it is right now. After week 3, we move forward and see because that can be very much shaken up, and we'll let you know why. Because today, obviously, like we've mentioned many times, it'll be at Brazil, but the weather today, a little bit rainy, guys. So that being said, that means you have a whole different tire strategy going on. When you have, a heavy downpour here, you have to kind of judge it on paper where you go. So, Lane, I'll go over to you. I know, obviously, when it's pouring down like it is right now, as we'll see in qualifying, they're going to bring in the full wets there, and you have the intermediates to play with as well.
Yeah, for sure they're going to be bringing the full wets to deal with that amount of rain. It's going to be very slippery on the field, so they need to take care of that level of aggressiveness, being patient, and also dealing with the speed, because after all, you got to grasp and grab those field positions. And we already see the racetrack layout. Interestingly, 3 sectors, gonna be very cool to see the combinations, right, of full speed sections with those turns.
Yeah, TJ, you've obviously, when we talk about a regular, weather day, you have, Sector 1 and Sector 3 that are typically pretty high speed. They still will be to some degree. Sector 2, a whole different monster, especially during the rain. But that being said, Sectors 1 and 3 are still equally dangerous today because of that rain. You got to be on your game and make sure that you have that traction throughout. Otherwise, with that high speed, it can certainly cause a couple of spinouts here, as I'm sure we'll see throughout the entirety of this day.
With how bad the weather is going to be today, if you are unfamiliar with Formula Racing, you're going to see a few tractors in Sector 2. It is going to be almost impossible to push that car directly to its limits from turn 6 all the way through 11, not just to 11. Not to mention that 12 is a pretty tough one as well, and 11 to 12 is downhill. Actually, 10 through 12 is downhill. So it's going to be tough to make it work on the back half of this track. Also, just like in almost every Formula track, turn 1 after pulling the high speed swinging turn from 13 all the way, it's going to be rough there, and I really do hope that everybody survives throughout those first few laps of the GP, or just making it through qualifying in general. But turn 1 will prove to be points of error, points of pain for many of the drivers.
And so, when we do see some drivers almost inevitably, it seems like at this point, lose control just simply because of the track conditions, even the best drivers, best of the best, will lose traction here and unfortunately wreck and find themselves retired a little bit earlier than they want to. So, but that being said, Lane, you kind of have to fight through it here at this point in time. Speed's going to be a factor, but you want to make sure you're not going too slow either or conservatively, because at the end of the day, these cars are not not really built for for going slow. You want to have full speed regardless. So you have to kind of play that balance, and it takes a strong mentality, Lane, in order to really get through this track alive.
I love how he brought the best word to describe today's race. It's going to be all about the mentality, combining the speed on the long straights with that patience that I mentioned, going slower on the turns, and also dealing with the first chicane, the Ayrton Senna S that we see from turn 1 to 2, leading you to the sweeping of the turn number 3, which also reminds us of like the Austrian, the Italian, the Monza GP, to be fair, because he got a tough set of turns already in front of you after the start line, and then after that you got a sweeping one, so you got to deal with those elements. And here today we got the elevation as well, so it's a lot to cover, and it's going to be very challenging at first because of traffic as much.
Yeah, I love this track because it's a complete. It takes so much influence from so many other tracks that are out there, like Brooklyn's, for example. It's been known to have mocked that a little bit. Roosevelt Raceway in the USA, but also Moulins as well from France. So those 3 tracks were putting together, but it does remind me of Monza as well. It's the best of all worlds, in my opinion. So definitely got a good one there in Brazil, and one that will be geared up for today. Also, TJ, it's the return of the safety cars as well. So with this rain, you could really see a shakeup when it comes to, strategies here, pit strategies, being able to make up ground just simply by being able to group those cars together.
My favorite feature in this entire Formula STEM Esports Cup, it's the safety cars, and I'm going to go ahead and place, I'm not a betting man, but I would say that we're going to see 2 safety cars. There's only 25 laps, and I unironically think that safety cars could take up a 4th, potentially a 3rd of this race. They will be staying out in the rain more than likely for 2 or potentially 3 laps at a time, depending on how bad the crashes get. Not to mention as well that there is a lot of what I like to call puddle points on this track, where you'll see it once the drivers actually start racing. Many of the corners, because of how realistic this game is, shout out to EA and Codemasters for their work, the corners will be flooded. Genuinely will be flooded, and cars will not survive going through that. And the safety cars are aware of that. They will drive in different lines than the actual racing line. They may take longer to go around the track, trying to keep your tires warm in the rain with the safety car, with the puddles. I could go on the factors for hours at a time, but we've only got a few minutes before we actually get to racing. It's going to be a thrill to see the safety car return.
Yeah, 100% is, and you bring up a good point. Not only the puddles, but like it's so realistic that the elevation change in this on this circuit is huge too. So you have a lot of elevation changes. The uphill turns aren't as safe as they may appear on paper, so the speed definitely decreases. You see a bigger gap between the approach there, just simply by experiencing this rain that we'll have here today. We've got the qualifying session ready to go, and it is pouring out there. So that means that they will have to be careful here in this approach, guys. TJ, let's start things up and see if Noni Dude performs just as well, him in top racing, when it comes to qualifying in the rain.
Well, I'll kick it off with some translation to start. So we do have 2 different heats, and they are developed pretty decently in terms of the skill gap. You'll notice there is some faces missing. You have people like Top Racing, who are going to be in the other lobby. We are going to be watching this lobby, which is decently stacked. Monkey is in here. No Need Dude is in here. Nico is in here. 24K is in here. Hardware is in here. And so Lane, to go ahead and get this whole thing started, one of the biggest points is No Need Dude thinks it's good enough for intermediates.
Right, he's going to go for intermediates. That is going to be interesting, and let's see how he's going to deal with that choice. To be honest, very, very exotic. But it's not the first time, TJ, we see a driver going for different tires on the start. Some guys have been challenging those general patterns. Top Racer was one of them, Dog as well. These guys have been, making different choices, and I'm so interested to see how that's going to roll.
One of the big points of contention as well is due to how realistic the game is, which we've already made that point. You will notice that a racing line will actually start to become formed, not by the game itself, but by the racers if they all take the suggested racing line that they see on their screens, and you're also going to notice a lot of sliding. But in the meantime, we've got Illegal Monkey, who is going to be I believe, our very first driver to get their lap started. There is a lot going on behind him, but one of the biggest drivers with the biggest room of improvement from the previous races. We'll see here how will he decide to take turn 1. Braking slightly early. He will decide to stick it down on the curb, but also worth noting, Lane, is those curbs get even more dangerous than they already are on the rain. They
do. They entirely change the stability you got on your car, so you got to be very, very, very careful and cautious. And I saw that he did a good job, by reducing that gear to the almost max on the first turn, and then making himself have a nice exit on the second turn to try to achieve that speed. It's going to be a constant challenge. Then that's what we love about a challenging track such as Brazil. And we see Doug Jr. starting well so nicely so far, followed by Illegal Monk, but they're not so close. So those gaps are going to be getting closer and closer as we move on, TJ.
Illegal Monkey making their way through Sector 2 very carefully, and the spin will put him horizontally, and so will another driver. I believe that was 24K King who had spun. It is hard to tell. It might have been Cry as well due to the colors of the players' cars, but all right, well, there you go. There's your first example of what to expect here in the full wet conditions. One bad turn, one bad throttle press, and your car is gone. So that means in the meantime, with already almost 14 minutes left to go, it looks like it will probably be, based on who I'm seeing at the front of the grid, I think it is 24K King or Nico who will get out up front. It'll be Squeaky first, and the Monkey finally does make it around, but you can tell lost a lot of time based on what they were setting. Mao makes their way around behind. Speed Ninja decently behind. Doe Jr. comes through with a 121.5, and there's a lot of time left to be found on this circuit. Mile will roll through into P4, but every other driver will probably have to go ahead and pit early, unless I actually believe Cry maybe wasn't the one who spun. 24K King makes their way around and takes a very comfortable lead, a 120.2 lane.
24 King doesn't joke around, does he? Second best player or driver into the Austrian GP, and then fourth best place on Monza GP. This guy is always steady on the upper positions on the leadership. I love how he's following that trend so far, and 1 second as a gap between the drivers, at least in the first leading pack. I love to see how that's gonna be following up from now to the end of the session. And we have to point that Cry is a new guy. Let's see how he's gonna be making it happen today. I want to see also a lot more from Squeaky hardware, as we mentioned before. All these drivers having this pure challenge of Brazil GP today.
No Need Dude has spent 3 minutes in the pit lane. Now finally decides to go for his outlap and times it beautifully well. So Bear, strategy calls are already coming out. What should we be expecting from him here?
You want to be making sure that you have a clean sight line, as we've seen already. Two players, whether they can contact or not, which I don't believe they're able to in the qualifying session. You still want open space. Number one, because of visibility. When you see the splashing of the car in front of you, that visibility goes away very quickly. So you want to have open space, not only for the clean air that you get, but also making sure that you have full visibility in the qualifying session.
Thank you, Bear. And also, I got to bring back up the point of the racing lines as well. You will be able to see slowly on your screens that there will be tire marks all across the track. So for No Need Dude, this is a very, very nice call from him early. Somebody who has been able to make incredible calls time and time again, no matter if the safety car came out or whether they had their own qualifying issues. They show up and they ball out here lane. And so now we are going to see No Need Dude finally start on their lap. I'm excited to see what that entails. But in the meantime, I believe almost every driver is going to be entering the pits here.
Right, it's time to see how those pits are going to be happening and the impact it's going to have on the racetrack, on the qualifying racetrack in this case. To be honest, so far, No Need Dude, very, very steady driver as well. Obviously, already on the qualifyings, having this different challenge today. And here it is a very, very interesting, portion of the track for us to see. How do they balance that speed, that incoming speed, the momentum into the first set of turns? As we give it a look at No Need Dude in this case, doing the core portion of the track, right, TJ? Doing it smoothly, nicely, not to lose the stability and the confidence in the car.
I mean, you have to give Monkey their fair share of credit, as
Oh,
we'll see No Need to
I
take a
jinxed him.
little bit of a spin there, but we'll still be able to set a decent time, I hope. But Monkey came around the track, went 2 laps in a row, and actually was a pretty good call. Increased their time after it was all said and done, and now No Need Dude is very slowly making their way around in second gear, bending around turns 13 and 14. Moment of truth is here to see if that spin really did cost him. You can see his time in the top right. It will be close, coming up on that minute 20 mark. He won't exactly eclipse it. Will have lost a decent amount of time, and No Need Dude, after a slight moment, will only be in P6.
Yeah, oh my god, you know, this P6 being so, I would say, unwanted and tricky for No Need Dude, so used to being up ahead and leading the packs. But it's cool to see how these guys are managing to keep steady, keep confident, because this is all about what it is, the Brazilian GP, as we still stay on the vision of No Need Dude, trying to maneuver, catching some speed, and obviously now, yeah, trying to use a little bit of the oversteer. I love that confidence for him. You know, not so patient, not so slow now, but keeping the drifting mode, let's put it this way, into this moment.
I love what I'm seeing from No Need Do, but keep in mind that the time to beat is a minute 19. I mean, it wasn't a perfect lap for Monkey, and there is time to gain, but it was pretty dang close for the time being. Also worth noting, many drivers have decided to not only go for 2 hot laps in a row, but almost 3 for somebody like Squeaky Hardware, who is at least sitting more comfortably in P2. No Need Dude, again, coming around these final turns, didn't have as bad of a moment, but it's still slightly concerning. But you did see that Sector 2 light up purple. It means that No Need Dude is on the verge of something special here, getting close to the line. Is he sub 119? You can betcha.
Wow.
118.7.
There was a massive fast track by him. Very good lap time here. Yeah, making himself so strong, right? And as I said, enjoying and using the slippery of the track to himself, to his benefit. That's tough. That's interesting to see, actually.
Bear, 10 minutes left to go. Squeaky Hardware looks like they will cross the line into the pit lane. So now comes a major strategy point once again for these drivers is when are you going to decide to come out? How many laps do you want to do in a row? And what's the goal here?
Goal is to make sure that you're confident from the get-go whenever you're leaving the pit lane. So you want to make sure that, number one, that you have those full wets on in order to ensure that slipping like we saw from No Need Dude is not happening. Make sure that you have a clean run when you do so, and just have 1 lap at a time, even if you have to take it lap by lap. That's probably the best case scenario, as a lot of these drivers, when they're in the pit lane, that's the ideal time to be out there, be running laps, and be in that open space like we mentioned just a little bit earlier.
With the track drying up the way that you see on your screens, I'm expecting potentially intermediates to come out here, Lane. I'm not sure who's willing to make that bold of a call, but with 8 minutes left and the rain at least somewhat lightening up, I really think anything is possible, and Doe Jr. is the first one to switch.
He's the first one to switch, and he has been doing so good, you know, on learning on those pit stop strategies, excuse me, from the last weeks to now. I think he's going to be doing well. He is a very tough driver. He showed that, you know, whenever he wants to change from other compounds to newer ones, he can make it almost to the podium. Last week, for example, he was at the top 3. We could see he was, you know, striving to stay there, but then he had to change his tires. So the endurance always challenging him. But let's see how he's gonna make it happen today. And also, Mile Proto bringing those intermediates. So yeah, it's already happening, TJ.
In the meantime, 24K King, one of the last top drivers who are out right now. Hardware just officially came out of the pits. Monkey, I believe, is finishing up their laps. 24K King will come around. It looked like there was a nice spin in Sector 1, but nothing too bad. In the meantime, 24K King's time will be sub 120, and it will be an improvement, but still a very major gap to the 118.7 that No Need Dude has. And he spent almost half of qualifying, or at least a third of qualifying, in the pit lane. And also, one thing that maybe a lot of us viewers don't know is you can actually spectate other drivers while you're in the pit lane. So if I was No Need Dude, if I was Nico, I would be watching how is Mile Proto and how is Doe Jr. going to look on those intermediates. And the moment that there's maybe even a sliver of crazy improvement that could happen, you got to take it.
Yeah, you got to watch these guys closely, right? Because it seems to be the same standard we're going to be seeing in the GP itself in a little while. And I love this. This is, yeah, a chance of you for learning, and taking this knowledge up ahead. Differently from other GPs, as we know, you could see some differences. You could see some soft tires at the beginning of the qualifying sessions or prelim hits before, but here we're going to be almost seeing the same trend. Let's see who's going to be doing well with those changes, of course.
Monkey's time as they come around will be a loss of 4/10, so no major improvements for them. But one other point I would love to bring up is, to Bear, we are slowly approaching the 5-minute mark. Things are getting dire, and the driver's learning ability and how precise they're able to maneuver the car is also going to become deeply important. I mean, no matter if you're using a controller or a wheel, you're going to start to notice those major changes, as Doe has a moment here. But, Bear, in terms of that precision, are we expecting major improvements with the rain here? I mean, the GP is only a one-shot qualifier.
Yeah, you know, a lot of these drivers don't have an experience. They've actually admitted it to us in the Discord channel that we have. So openly and publicly saying, hey, listen, I haven't run a whole lot of laps in the rain. So that being said, when you have these high school students who are really quick learners, especially in the world of STEM, they're able to piece together a lot of brain power in order to figure it out lap by lap. So I anticipate nothing less than even more precision as time goes on. So an excellent point there, TJ, and we're keeping eyes on every single driver as their lap times may even improve as time goes on.
There's a lot to learn regardless of how good you're performing right now. And the biggest thing to note, too, is that you've got to make sure you can make it to the GP. Luckily for these racers, there is only 10 of them, so they are all guaranteed to make it to the GP. But the bigger issue at hand is your practice laps. And you mentioned it earlier, Bear, and also Lane, you too, your confidence on this track. The rain gets so heavy and can really give you a shaking, scary moment as you're trying to push the car around. And Doe Jr. on those intermediates, we'll have to check in on how they're doing, but maybe you don't have to push it as hard. Maybe the rain is starting to lighten up, but it's so hard to tell.
Yeah, that changes, right, over the track. That's what we love about the Brazilian GP, because you're going to have to maneuver in a careful way at first, and then you can get solid, you can get bolder closer to the late portions of the sessions themselves. And I want to see that happening at the actual GP in a little bit. And one thing to mention quickly is Nico, right? He was telling me, man, that, you know, he was nervy at his first online race, which was precisely Monza GP. Can you believe it was his first ever online race session, and he was already locked into the playoffs? This 17 years old lad doing so well back then and doing so well today again.
Wow. I mean, I wish we would talk about that in the pre-show. That is new information to me. His very first online race and got P3. That is a spectacle. Can't say I've seen that one before, as the community in F124 is pretty brutal in the online races. And granted, I don't think this community has changed that notion any better. But either way, we're having a good time here. And Monkey having a great time as well, who did push extremely close to no need, dude. We're talking about 300ths there, Lane.
Yeah, just absolutely nothing, right? He's so close and doing a good job and looking so solid and learning from other drivers. He was being so humble earlier today with me, you know, telling who's who and telling that the major guys are going to get the spots. But he is also a very good driver himself, and he's showing that today, staying ahead of 24 King, a very steady, one of the steadiest drivers we have in the season.
One of the bigger things that I really hope we get updates on soon is what's going on in the other lobby. There's a lot of talent over on the other side. Joseph,
correct.
Top Racing, James. There's a lot of drivers to look out for on the other side. So hopefully we will be getting an update on the other session to kind of give you all an update of who we're going to see fighting at the very top in the GP. But for the time being, it is all about improving by any millimeter or any milliseconds, I mean, that you can find. Here comes No Need Dude's third lap overall. Is it faster? It's a 118.4. Wow. How does he do it?
Amazing time, right? Very good job. Yeah, very similar to No Need as well, No Need Dudes as well. Good job. That's a very awesome, very much awesome lap time. And yeah, I want to see the rest of the lads. Now that you mentioned it, TJ, we're going to have to see the other lobby as well, the other drivers. We're going to save that conversation for later, because here it's a matter of seeing how 24 King is going to be able to manage that position, especially in these very last seconds.
2 minutes left to go, and drivers will start to pit. 24K King, if they want a chance at actually getting another lap in, they're going to have to immediately leave the pits and really rush around. So we'll have to keep an eye on if they're able to get back out with new tires. But in the meantime, Nico is setting their time, coming all the way around, entering Sector 2. And drivers are all very spaced out. So it's time to throw the excuses away. Everyone's got clean air. You're going to get one last chance here to try and change your placement, which again, it won't matter until we do get to that one shot in the GP. But you would love to have a time to point to and say, hey, I can compete with the top. And I know Illegal Monkey, who was just a mere hundredths away from No Need Dude, will be trying to push, and we'll see if they can get out of the pit lane in time. But Nico, somebody who has been extremely impressive ever since they joined last week. One of the rookie phenoms, one of the many rookie phenoms in this race, will find their way off to the side, and that will be the end of their qualifying run. We'll switch over to Doe Jr., who is really rushing around the track, and we'll be able to get a lap in time, but we switch over back to Hardware, making their way through Sector 2, and so far the timings look pretty decent, Lane.
Yeah, they do, and Squeaky Hardware, he's kind of melting down the distance, right? Between himself and Legal Monkey, and on Doug Jr., that was very unfortunate, and that can happen at any point of Interlagos here, so the drivers have to stay focused all over the way. And I love how, they're pushing the wets to this point. It's a very late moment of the session here, TJ. Still trusting that those wets are going to be making a difference and helping them to go through. As we know, the wet tires, they are able to take a whole bunch of water out of the system and out of the car per second, so that's how important they are.
Moment of truth, and actually Hardware was going back into the pits. That's the end of their session. Monkey is going to try and get the outlap, but it's officially over. 0 seconds left, and he'll have to retire. Nico, though, this will be their final attempt, and it's looking pretty good here, Lane.
Looking amazing for Nico. Yeah, very, very talented young bright man doing his job here at the sector, number 2, getting out of these very, very tricky, twisty, and technical set of turns to finally reach the turn number 12 now and go through throttle to the end, to the finish line.
Here we go. Nico will try to make their way around, currently sitting at a minute 10. It's going to be close, but a long ways to get to the ending. You're looking for a minute 18. It won't happen, but maybe sub-minute 20 if they're quick, and we'll do so. We'll improve just a little bit, but not enough to make any major differences, as now you'll see No Need Dude will currently hold on to P1. Doe Jr. having a tough time nursing the car all the way around, and from what I'm seeing, I believe this is going to be our final placement after Speed Ninja was parked off track and got disqualified, but again, they will be in the GP. Mao also, I believe, DNF'd towards the end there. So here we go. Doe Jr. is the only driver who can make anything shake. Currently sitting at a minute 17, bending around. It could be a decent improvement if he's quick enough, and he does get an improvement. I didn't get to see what spot he hopped up to. It's 6 for Doe Jr., so a nice little final lap to get a placement or 2.
It was a nice momentum he had, right, since the last portion of the sector number 2, and there it is. We got all the numbers, and look how close they are, TJ. It's great to see this level of competitiveness here between these guys. Again, we don't have any more newcomers, right? I think we have to change our word here. We got a lot of veterans, and we got all of them very much focused on what is up ahead.
Well, I have to be the first one to mention this. In the other qualifying session, things got very interesting. Ian earned P1 on the very final lap. Over in the other session, Joseph and Top Racing rounded out the top 3, but also Bear, welcome back to the desk with us. Worth noting is that not a single driver was able to punch under 119.5, and just as a reminder to everybody, No Need Dude and Illegal Monkey were sub 119.
Yeah, not only that, but No Need Dude was actually sub 118.5, so that means a whole second above what was happening in the other qualifiers. So in the unbroadcasted qualifying race that we'll have, we'll keep you up to date during that race itself specifically, but that is a huge difference, and that really goes back to showing that when you have certain drivers that are kind of battling it out to some degree within the qualifying session, not exactly ideal, and maybe that was the factor. Obviously, we didn't get eyes on it, but to see that 119.548 from Ian Hockby, the top level on the other side side was kind of interesting. Also top racing at P3, but not only that, but Illegal Monkey, like we mentioned, beat all of them. So very, very competitive. You see all these racers, like Lynn mentioned to his point, that has been incredible to see them go as we launch into the qualifying session here, the qualifying race that is to determine, I guess, who goes to the GP at this point in this broadcast, at least specifically. All these drivers will, but it's really just a confidence and learning game at this point.
We're not going to waste any time. Welcome to Sao Paulo, and it is extremely wet here for the qualifying races, as Bear will be serving wonderful analysis work as he has continued to do so for both the qualifying race and the GP. You're stuck with me, DJ TJ, and next to me is Lane X. And Lane, we talked about it in the pre-show, pit strategies. I would be shocked if we see the intermediates come out, maybe even at all, during a track and condition like this.
Yeah, I don't know anymore about that. I was thinking on that, to be honest, before the broadcast here. But yeah, West totally dominating the scenario. We saw how much they helped a lot of those drivers before. Obviously, we're going to see them at the first pack of choices here. We already have some stuff, some elements here to observe when it comes to the times. Again, those gaps being created and getting built by the drivers, and no need, dude. Again, very confident, taking the leadership so far. Nothing wrong, super clean. And he has been doing that quite honestly lately, especially last week, right? He was so strong, coming from the qualify on the MotoGP from the first spot to the GP itself, being the winner.
We don't exactly have a radar with us, but a little birdie on our shoulders says that towards the end of these races, potentially the GP and the qualifying races, that we may see the rain start to lighten up. There may be a reason to call for a pit stop if you are pushing behind or maybe not far enough ahead of a racer. But for somebody like No Need To, these gaps are going to become just that much more important. As you can see what the game suggests, and no surprise here, there is even a very funny world where we don't see the drivers stop for a pit at all, which I believe, due to the rainy conditions, is allowed, as somebody just lost a rear wing there on our camera. I'm not sure who that was, but got to be careful. No Need Dude started off and gained a lot of room, but in the meantime, Squeaky Hardware and 24K King are going to be battling early. And Lane, there's one thing that we know, you've got to watch out for racers like Squeaky Hardware.
You gotta watch out. Yeah, he's so aggressive, right? He's such a good early contender of spots. Let's see if he's gonna be able to sustain that kind of choice. Now, talking about those tires again, you can go for the one stop strategy, but you're gonna have to play less aggressively, though. You're gonna have to save those resources if you want to make it last longer. Let's see if it's gonna be the case here today, TJ.
I mean, based on the gaps that we're seeing, I would imagine that No Need Dude, who sets the fastest lap currently next to Illegal Monkey, I think they're probably just going to roll this race all the way out. Again, for those of you who are unfamiliar with the format, this is the qualifying race. There's another one going on, which we will hopefully be able to update you with as we go along. That's where Top Racing and some of the other racers are currently hiding, like Ian and Joseph as well. We will see, but in the meantime, Nico and Cry having a very nice battle here in the wets, and this is our only race that we will be following. And also, in terms of making it to the GP, all you have to do is make top 10, and well, if you can count with both of your hands, you will realize that all drivers here in this session will make the GP. So this is not exactly just a practice race. There is still obviously bragging rights and practice and experience on the line once you do get to the GP, which again, Lane, is only a 1-lap qualifying. So you've got to get comfortable, and if you can't do it in 18 laps, then you're for sure not going to be able to do it by the time the GP comes around.
You're correct. Yeah, it's going to be challenging all the way into the GP. We see some drivers now still facing that kind of snappiness in the field, so it is going to be tough. And here, differently from the previous session, TJ, some level of traffic, right? That could change elements, that could change how the driver is going to be behaving, and that's what I wanted to see. Some of them getting grouped together, packing together. Let's see how that's going to change their performance here.
Must keep an eye on the gaps of the top 4. It was originally No Need Dude and Illegal Monkey who were within a second of each other, and then it was Hardware and 24K King who were within maybe less than 5/10 of a second. And now all 4 drivers have been able to spread their wings and fly in their own lane a little bit here. And also Speed Ninja did have a slight moment over on Sector 2 on the previous laps, you will notice that they have fallen behind in the bottom right corner on the map there. But we are watching Mao and Mile have a very nice battle here on the back of the grid. And it's hard to make moves on Brazil, especially here in Sector 2. You're going to have to get bold. You're going to have to get dangerous and send it around the outside or potentially the inside of some of these turns. But look at the patience here from Mao. He is right on the tail of Mile.
Yeah, it's been quite a fight, quite a battle, right? Mao, so consistent in the last GPs, but always making into the top 10, almost like top 11 around there. Let's see what he's going to be able to do. Now, facing some level of battle versus Mile Proto, he allowed him, in a way, now gaining that position and getting out of the core spots of the racetrack here in this qualifying session. So Mao having to do a little more. I had in my notes here, TJ, he needs to do some work to reach the playoffs. He has potential, but he's got to work a little tougher.
Speed Ninja has DNF'd as well, as it looks like maybe it was a manual DNF, as they were racing fine with no damages. But in the meantime, Cry uses that ERS battery to make their way down the inside of Doe Jr. So we just talked about Mao and their ability to make a move, but maybe the best spot to make a move in this entire track is on that final straight. Cry will use it to his effectiveness, and now you'll start to see maybe he can find some time to try and catch up to Nico. And Nico is one of the most interesting stories to start off with. So Bear, I want to let you talk about this one. We are 5 laps in, and Nico isn't too far behind the rest of the grid, isn't too far ahead of the rest of the grid, finds himself smack dab in the middle, and it's an intriguing story based off his performance last week.
Right, when you see just a pop-off performance like we saw last week from an inexperienced driver, him admitting that specifically, but then being able to bounce back and have your run-of-the-mill type of race here. You would expected maybe a little bit more, but you don't really know what to expect. There was a question mark there coming in. The good thing for him, though, is this is a learning process. Everybody's going to make the GP, and in my opinion, I really think that no matter how far back you are in this race, in this GP, whether it be this qualifying race or the actual GP that will get to you in just a little bit, these racers know that they got to make their moments in this spotlight and be able to go through. But even if they fall back about 5 seconds or so, you can count on maybe somebody from the top side having a moment like we saw, unfortunately, there from Speed Ninja, and you might be able to make up a couple of spots like that.
Doe Jr. pushing down the inside of Cry. Will stick the move. A little bit of wheel touching, but a great move from Doe Jr. Also in the meantime, No Need Dude has drastically expanded the gap to P2, as it was sitting at a second 2-3 laps ago. It is now pushing 4 seconds. Also not to mention that No Need Dude's fastest lap, I believe, was a 1:19.6. Just for reference, the qualifying time of the other lobby with drivers like Ian and Top Racing, well, Lane, it was 1:19.5. So No Need Dude is on the verge of his race pace being as fast as the qualifying pace of almost the entire grid of the GP. But who knows what's going on in the other session as well.
Correct. He's such an interesting driver, right? Because, yeah, like you said, he's got room to expand. He's doing so well, so steady now. Interesting to see his leadership at this point. I just wanted to mention about Doug Jr. Being very aggressive and forcing the hand, right? Almost pushing Nico out of the lane itself and forcing him aside. So those battles are going to keep happening. As we know, it's tough to overpass. You got some chances between turns 1 and 3. I don't know, depending on your speed, depending on the positionings. As we see 24 King passing by TJ. Great job to go for the 40 here. Oh, but yeah, attacked back. And these guys are going to go far.
Attempted switchback move from Squeaky Hardware.
Correct.
As you see 24K King turn his car into a drifter for a second, and now it'll open up the door for Hardware to be right on the tail, and we will switch off that POV, and I hope that battle's still close, as Cry will now try to catch up to Doe Jr. We will keep an eye on 24K and Squeaky Hardware, but very briefly, I have to talk about that switchback move. It's very smart from Hardware to intentionally open the door and maybe switch back, but also 24K King made a professional move there and just parked his car right on the curb to prevent that move. And I'm not sure if the drivers received damage from that little scuffle there, but it's an interesting point to note, especially with the GP looming in just about 9 more laps.
100%, TJ. 24 King, he was smart enough to know how to use the curbs, right? As we do know, the curbs, if you use them too much, you could either go for a penalty, you could just destabilize your dynamic, layout and work. So it's tough. He was smart enough to close the spaces for us. Squeaky Hardware, who though is working hard, is doing better today. I love to see his effort.
I will correct myself. I don't do math, apparently. It is 10 laps, not 9 laps, left to go in the race. And a lot of time for these drivers to find still. As Bear, we are slowly approaching the very first pit window, which I believe is set to be around laps 8 through 10. But also, so many drivers can make the decision to simply not pit at all. So I'm not sure if you have any major predictions to give, as No Need Dude seemed to lose a little bit of car there. Are we expecting stops here, or is everybody going to stick this one out?
I think the biggest thing to notate is at the bottom of the grid here, if you're down there, you want to see adjustments made here. You know you're going to make the GP, so in your brain you're thinking, hey, if I make the adjustment now here in this qualifying race, you know, you can learn so much from that pickoff, specifically through the analysis of that. So I would expect it 5 through 9 right here, all the way down to Mao to potentially make that move. For No Need Dude, you can experiment with that as well. It doesn't really matter, but you're running great laps as is. I would expect now, as you can see things drying up a little bit, that if you do come in, you want to trade out those wets for intermediates to, number one, get that analysis, but number two, be able to run faster laps and know how it feels if you're able to make that switch during the GP.
No Need Dude, I thought was going to pit for a second, but decided to take a little bit of a video game racing line down the inside, just like we watched every driver do during qualifying. And in the meantime, it doesn't look like anybody is going to make the decision to pit, at least early on in this race, which I think would be the best way to go about doing that, maybe testing that Bear Light mentioned. But also, Lane, you talked a lot about the pit strategies we can notice as well. And as we watch Mile have a tough fight here down the inside of Cry, are we expecting anybody in the bottom half, like Bear mentioned, to maybe make the substitution, or are they just going to keep battling like they are now?
Well, I know. That's a very good question, actually. I know there's a temptation to keep running with those tires, but they're gonna have to stop. They're gonna have to change for those mediums who, seem to be the better choice, because you actually don't need the hards in this occasion. We're talking about just 18th laps. It doesn't require you all that endurance, and I'm eager to see who's going to change first, right? The driver who's going to change first is going to kind of set the pace or the tone, depending if he goes where or not.
Well, you bring up a completely different point that I wasn't expecting to talk about, is you're talking about the track dries up completely. Do we see dry tires come out? That is a point that I didn't even notice that we could talk about here, as I'm expecting it to be rainy throughout the entire race. But in the meantime, No Need Dude will set a blazer of a 19.3. And also, Cry was fighting very closely with Mile, but it seems like Mile is going to make his efforts stick, is increasing the gap decently, but now Cry will get to deploy a lot of that ERS. You'll see the battery meter at the bottom decline very rapidly. That's the power that the car will try to use to get back, but Mile's using some ERS of their own, and that move that we saw on this exact turn right here will stick for him. And now he still has to defend for the rest of the race, especially if these drivers don't pit, or if Cry almost loses control of the front end there. But in the meantime, that battle's very interesting, and even more interesting than that, not a single driver is within a second of one another.
Correct. Yeah, it's barely that time. And you can see on the case of Cry, right? He was pushing so much in the later portion of the track, but then in the end, it was tough to keep that speed and keep the balance of the car as soon as he got again to the first turns. That's what we extensively talked about before in the pre-show. It's always going to be challenging. He was trying to cut that time. It's still tough between him and Milo Proto, while we see a little bit of Illegal Monkey so far doing so well and try to catch that time versus No Need Dude. Kind of tough. We see those milliseconds just going up and up, but he's got himself at a very comfy spot versus 24 King, TJ.
He was doing well up until turns 12 and 13, and Monkey will make an improvement on his normal lap time, but if his normal lap time includes a slight spin there, and that was only a slight improvement, then that just goes to show how beautifully No Need Dude has continued to drive. And that gap was at 5 seconds. It is now pushing to 6. But also, in other news, I don't know what happened to 24K King, but that gap was, I believe, 3 seconds before, as now Hardware is directly on his tail with 7 laps to go. Things getting really dicey here on the podium places.
Oh yeah, it's gonna get so dicey. I want to see that third spot, to be honest, getting grabbed either by 24 King or Squeaky Hardware. See these guys so close now. Ooh. Oh man, Squeaky, he's so much in the tail. He's so hot on the tail here, trying to catch up. Let's see how he's gonna be using the additional energy to make it even closer. I don't know if he's gonna have an overtake spot here, TJ. What do you say?
It's going to have to be on this last stretch here, and they are about to round that corner. You'll notice the 24K King, the lines are a little wider, too. He does stick that one very nicely, though, but here comes Squeaky Hardware. Both drivers have a decent amount of battery to use here, and you'll see that overtake meter go bright. Both drivers going very fast. Hardware is using a lot more, though. Here comes maybe a chance. It's going to be close. I don't think that they will decide to stick it. It's a great move from 24K King to deny the inside, and there was a slight chance for Hardware to get close until then, where the car becomes a spinning top over into the grass, and 24K King will get that 3-second gap that he had originally back, and so much more, and unfortunately for Hardware, I mean, now you're going to be just stuck between a rock and a hard place. You've got a big gap in front and behind you, and you've got to live with that spin.
Correct. It's going to be a tough time for him to take out. Oh, man, he was so close, right? He was so close in a lot of turns in a row, and I don't know what happened. Maybe a wet portion of the asphalt, maybe he was just unlucky. These elements can really happen, and that goes to show again how realistic the game is, as we see now Cry in the back portion here. His eternal kind of fight or battle versus Mile Proto. This guy is still fighting for better spots and points. So cool to see, right? How things can change in a second, TJ.
I mean, Cry and Mile have been going at it for almost the entire qualifying race here, and I really do hope that maybe that's a battle that we get to watch in the actual GP, because every driver here will make it. Also, Mao, we finally see somebody who decides, hey, I'm already far back enough, why don't I try the intermediates? Why don't I see maybe in the actual GP what the weather conditions may be? Because, and production can confirm this or not, based on what we've heard, I do believe that the track conditions will be the exact same, but in the GP, you get more laps for the rain to start to dry up. So I like that strategy call from Mao. And so, Bear, I'll throw it to you here for a second. Mao struggling in the wets, now going to the intermediates on a very wet track. Are we expecting some major improvements, or is it still maybe too early to pull him out?
Well, given the conditions that we see right now, it is drying up a bit, so I imagine he'll run faster laps than in a majority of the rest of this field. Number one, because there's 0 laps in versus the 12-lap tires that you'll see across with the wets. But at the same time, Mao is definitely going to see some improvements there. Now, is it going to be the same lap time as you'll see from a No Need Dude? It's hard to tell, because No Need Dude has been very clinical and consistent when we talk about even the wet conditions that we have in front of us. Meanwhile, Squeaky Hardware, we saw a little bit of a slip up there a little bit earlier as well. So I think that goes into consistency and mindset once again, because Squeaky Hardware has put in some amazing laps, but then unfortunately loses control in some certain situations there. So very uncharacteristic of the rest of the squad to see this, but I think Mao does see improvements as time goes on.
4 laps to go, and Squeaky Hardware, who didn't crash out but spun out earlier, was almost 6 seconds behind 24K King, and now Lane, I don't know if you've been watching that gap like I have, it's now just 2 seconds between the two, so we may see Squeaky Hardware get another chance at 24K King, but in 4 laps, it'll be a tough ask. In the meantime, though, again, Cry and Mile, we've been watching them for multiple laps at a time, because they are almost a direct mirror matchup between both of them, as now Cry makes a move, will go down the inside, will have plenty of room to stick it, doesn't break too hard, keeps it on the inside. Very clinical from Cry, who now gets to not only jump Mile, but jump Doe as well, who will now take their turn at the intermediates. But those two having a blast battling at P6 and P7.
That was beautiful to see, right? Cry, he took the inside line. It was kind of a bolder, more risky zone to work with, and he definitely went for it, doing a very good job in passing Mile right after the long straight. So very close battle, and I do agree with you, getting back to that also interesting narrative or battle between 24 King and Squeaky Hardware. I think these guys are going to be battling again in some laps. Now, for Squeaky Hardware, we have to mention that usually he goes in a better field position, grid position on the qualifying, and then he loses a little bit of that after in the following GPs that happened in Austria, in Monza. He just needs to not let this element affect him mentally, especially.
While talking about the upper half of the grid as well, you still have to talk about Nico Biko, who obviously has made their statement as one of the best drivers on the grid when they're hot. But here in the rain, even if it does seem to be getting lighter, you'll notice that there is a major gap down the line. It is a 26-second gap from P5 to P4, and that is not very normal. That is a huge gap. That is almost an entire sector that we're talking about, potentially even more if it's Sector 2 you're referring to or Sector 1. But regardless, that's going to be a really interesting racer to follow once the GP makes its way around. I mean, we already mentioned how critical it is to grab points. You only get so many regular season races to actually achieve those points, and if we do see racers like Top Racing or No Need Dude find their way back into the podium places, then that just means that your points become even more important because you can't earn those playoff qualifying spots unless you do it in another race. So without further ado, we're down to our final 3 laps. And now, Lane, it's getting even more interesting because No Need Dude goes 118.556, which is almost exactly what Ian Hawk's qualifying pace was. So no questions to be answered there. But in the meantime, Squeaky Hardware is now pushing just a second away from 24K King. Those two are getting closer by the lap.
Oh, yeah. Again, we're going to be seeing that changing the scenario of the podium in this qualifying session here. It's going to be great to see Squeaky getting close and cutting that difference. Now, that goes to show also about the curve of the learning experience, right, TJ? Some of these drivers are kind of new, so they're absolutely learning about how the weather can change conditions, especially Nico, Cry, other guys are absorbing that today. Definitely their times are not the ideal, not the best here. They're learning so much. I would say that's even more paramount than the final lap time itself. And when it comes to the big guys, yeah, so steady, right? No Need to Ian Hawk. These buddies are just beasts when it comes to fighting and working in different scenarios.
2 laps to go, and we have yet to receive any updates regarding the status of the other lobby. We will hopefully have those results to talk about very soon. I'm sure the racing over there is getting very interesting as well, but this race is pretty much directly how it's written. Almost every driver is once again creating decent gaps. You're looking at the fight between P3 and P4, and then you're looking at, once again, Cry and Mile, who are sitting very close to each other, as now we are approaching the last 2 laps. Hardware is still trying to close that gap, but does remain a second away from 24K King still, and that gap does seem to be growing. So 24K King, you just got to hold the car for 1 more lap to really clinch that spot here in the qualifying races, which again, you won't earn any points from, but in a very competitive fight with Hardware, one that we very, very narrowly almost lost both drivers in earlier in this race. You take what you can get, and any bragging rights that you may find, as in the meantime, I actually believe it may have been Mile who just had a moment, and now Cry will get to extend that gap. Zoe Jr. may even find a way back around a Mile, and that's an unfortunate moment for him, but at least Cry can probably sit pretty at P6 for the rest of the race.
Correct. It's tough in these very last laps and minutes and seconds when you see yourself spinning, but it's cool. It's cool to see that they're learning, they're like increasing their gameplay levels and absolutely understanding how the weather is going to work again, like I said before. But we didn't see a lot of those changes on those tires, right? And I would love to see more of that. Some of these guys still trusting a lot on the wet tires, and so far it has been helping the best drivers. They seems to be settled on that kind of choice, TJ. But over here, potentially still a fight between Squeaky, not anymore. Yeah, we're leading, we're getting and heading to the last portions of the track. Oops, a little bit of slippery movement by No Need to, but he's totally fine.
I mean, No Need to just set the fastest Sector 1 of the entire race here on 17-lap-old wet tires. So maybe on the verge of something even more incredible than what we've seen them do ever since the qualifying session. On this last lap, it is very much a victory lap for No Need to. But in the meantime, I think Cry just had a mini spin of their own. So that battle over there may be something to watch out for. Or maybe it was Nico even. Actually, I do believe it was Nico. So it looks like they'll hold their spot, but not too comfortably. But in the meantime, No Need Dude has taken a 10th off of his entire lap time here on the very end of the lifespan of these wet tires, but what will also be a very crowning qualifying race for him. He's got many racers on the other side waiting for his name, but these racers have to face it now. Wow. No Need Dude, the fastest lap of the session on the very last one, dominates in this session.
Wow, that was just brilliant again. So steady, so clean, and yeah, what a time, man. That's gonna be tough to be beaten. I don't know about the other session, how the guys are doing in terms of like qualifying and reaching that clock. I'm very curious to see as we begin to see those final spots being taken. Followed up, Noni Dude is by Illegal Monkey, 24 King, as we can see in Squeaky Hardware, and all those other battles still actually mile Proto here versus Doug Jr. is a very, very open field. Let's see if he's going to be able to make it. Almost 2 seconds,
over.
I don't know.
He's got it.
Yeah,
he's
over,
got
yeah.
it. Doe Jr. is easily ahead and will come across the line, taking the pit and managing to gain 2 places. That is very impressive. And if you're another driver on the grid who didn't pit, you've got to take a look at that, as we'll bring Bear back on the screen with us very shortly here. And I'm going to let you talk about this point, Bear. Those intermediates actually looked pretty dang good towards the last 5-6 laps there.
It got you going, right? And really, those tires is what you expect. And that's if you can run in the more dry portions of the track. If you were following, you saw the racing lines and how they would dry up a little bit quicker because of the heat of the cars, right? So that's going to dry off the track there. But if those intermediates, if they get outside, if you're having to force into a battle, for example, and you have to get into the wetter portions, that's where you have to be a lot more careful as far as traction goes. But if you can stick in that groove, which typically that's what the Formula Stem Esports Cup looks like, then intermediates might be the play, especially if you need to close a big gap like we've seen in the past.
So very impressive race here from No Need Dude. As you can see it, I don't need to mention it. It was a easy run where they started with a second gap to Illegal Monkey, and then it was all over from there. But also, I have to give Monkey their flowers. Consistently was able to increase the gap to 24K King and Squeaky Hardware. And one other thing we haven't talked about at all here, Lane, is that drivers, the moment that they hit wet conditions, I mean, in the history of racing, not just Formula racing, it's almost like some racers are either completely better or completely worse in the wet than they are in the dry. I mean, I could talk about Lewis Hamilton all day being a wet race merchant in actual Formula One racing. And it looks like Illegal Monkey may be a better wet racer than a dry racer, but who knows what we're going to see.
Yes, I do believe so. He's showing to be a better guy when it comes to the wet conditions. You're correct. Also, these guys should be eventually, if we ever have a safety car, they should be kind of, wiggling to the sides to try to sense better the asphalt. That's something we could see potentially. But yeah, let's see how it's going to happen now on the GP.
Yeah, multitude of laps too, right? You almost double the amount of laps that you have to run when we talk about the GP. So there will be strategy, there will be pit stops, unlike what we saw here in the qualifying race. So that's something to take into consideration. But I will throw it back to you, Lane, first. I want to get your final thoughts on the qualifying race specifically and lessons learned that you might have found there.
Absolutely. I think the lessons learned were related to how the tires can last in this case. The wets, they're really reliable for most of the drivers. Let's see if that's going to be the case again of that on the GP. But also for Nico, a lot of lessons here. Absolutely. When it comes to going safer, trying to avoid those bold movements. Now, for No Need Dude, he just saw that he just needs to begin the early portions of the racetrack now on the GP safer. The other guys could have some slippery moments, and he's just gonna enjoy that. But we're not talking about just No Need Dude with these buddies here. We're talking about all the pack of the drivers. So he's gonna have to also conversate with the other buddies who are pretty much high qualified.
TJ, front to back, doesn't matter where you're running. In fact, let's give lessons for both. What are you looking for if you were at the top of that grid versus if you're at the bottom of the pack there?
Well, if you are racers like No Need Dude, like Monkey, like 24K King and Hardware, you know that you are of some of the best that this racing league has to offer. So you know that you can take those wets and you can stick them as long as you want up until it was probably going to get pretty dire around laps 18 through 20. They didn't have to worry about that at all, but once we get to the final race, it will be a 25-lap race, and those tires are not going to survive. Nobody will be able to take 0 stops and make it all the way through. I mean, the wets are pretty dang good tires, but your big takeaway, if you're at the top of the grid, is that. As for the bottom, you know that you can pull out the intermediates maybe if you need a little bit of help towards the end. Maybe if you want to make a dangerous call, you can get away with it. But now once we actually get to the GP, the points are going to be the most important part of the entire ending of the GP, not to mention just how crazy things are going to get. And also, Bear, I do believe that the other lobby has some updates.
I sure do. And it's insane. You have to check this out. Top Racing wins on the other side of things after qualifying third, but that's not the big news. He ran a 117 235 in that other section, if I'm reading that correct. I know it's 117.23 at the very least.
295.
So 295 still. Incredible work there. Certainly not only the fastest lap that we've seen, but by over a second. That's insane.
117. I mean, Lane, we talked about Noni Dude hitting the qualifying time of Top Racing. Top Racing said, I can do you one better. My race pace will be 2 seconds faster. That is incredible work from him.
That's a magisterial work again, you know, coming from the on-site event on Collision Center where we had the STEM activations last week to now where he's totally comfortable in his setup, you know, and doing and making it happen. You know, this dude, he must have had like perfect turns, not even a single moment of slippery. So I'm really curious to see how he's going to be dealing with Noni Dude. It's going to be quite a battle, right? For the first time, we're going to be seeing those two guys at their peak. Not to forget, of course, 24 King, all the other buddies. So it's going to be massive.
And TJ, you talked about consistency, and Reinforcing Seagull actually ran sub 118 as well with a 117.989. So finished fourth there, though. Had to make a stop. Maybe had to make a stop. Actually, I'm speculating that point. Maybe they wanted to test out some tires. So Reinforcing Seagull could be the dark horse here coming in there, TJ.
Yeah, something tells me that Siegel most likely decided to make the stop for intermediates around the same time that our drivers did. But also, we didn't talk about that Top Racing also pulled a stop out. So the bigger question that we're going to have to sit back and really think about is, were those 117s set on fresh or wet tires towards the end of a drier track, or were they set on brand new intermediates? I mean, our lobby has talented racers, don't get me wrong, but nobody in the top 5 or even 7 decided to go for the intermediates. It was our bottom drivers who were already behind. So with two extremely talented, very consistent drivers in Top Racing and Siegel, I wonder if that is how fast those intermediates can be.
No doubt about it. Well, we want to give a shout out to Stay Plus for making all these moments happen. First and foremost, it has been excellent being able to watch and see them create an environment for students, high school students specifically, to learn and grow through the summer camp programs that they've been able to install. So I'd like you to check this out because it is super awesome what they've been able to introduce, because just like we're learning about STEM, right? Just like we're learning about how do we secure the jobs. Like our job title, for example, today was marketing manager. Well, you know, with Stay Plus, there's an activation through summer camps. Players League, for example, is one of them, where through Madden and be able to create content and create a commercial for Brightspeed Fiber Internet, for example, a very cool activation. But there's so many things in addition to that. So AI learning, we're talking about aviation and drone piloting too. Lane, have you ever considered being a pilot and flying planes?
Never, but I would love to see that happening also on the field. I would love to see and learn about some drone piloting. That would be massive. Also, when you mentioned about AI, I love AI. I'm biased to tell and talk about it because me, myself, as a content creator, I keep, like trying to play around with AI tools. So it must be super interesting, to be honest.
No doubt. And then, of course, it's not just high schools, TJ. There's also boys and girls clubs, YCAs, that are following suit, too. In fact, we have one coming up in Summit Summer for North Carolina. So these are programs and activations that happen throughout the country.
I mean, we both share this point pretty heavily. Trying to get the STEM/esports/ just general gaming-related opportunities in the hands of as many students and children as possible. That's what this is all about. That's what these cool experiences like the Stay Plus Formula STEM Esports Cup is all about, is let's find what every living student is good at and let's put them on a pedestal. And that's what this is all about. That's why we love doing it. And those summer camps, you trust me, you do not want to miss those. They are a blast.
Amanda in chat says, can't wait to fly some planes. Well, listen, you can do exactly that through some of the flight simulators, and Microsoft Flight Simulator is awesome. But you can always do that at your new Stay Plugged In lab. Check them out. They're very cool places to be. Number one, it's a place where students want to be. That's where I want to be quite frankly. But I think the coolest thing is that it functions as a classroom during the day and then transitions to an esports lab. Or if it's a dedicated esports lab too, that's perfectly fine. You can just have it and make it look cool the entirety of the day. So it's really flexible. because we know high schools, they're really, sometimes they have to kind of fight over some space in classrooms. I've seen not physical fist fights, but pretty close to it. Very verbal fights over who's going to have which classroom. Can esports be in this room from 4 to 5 p.m.? Or that's the only times that you can be, and therefore it like runs in with league problems and things like that. With your own Stay Plugged In lab, you don't have to worry about that. Really cool environment. Plus, you can set the standards as far as who makes the team. Just like in traditional sports, you got to have your grades up in order to participate in a lab like that. In TJ, labs like that have been something that you've been able to be a part of in a couple different locations, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, no, I'm very fortunate to have received a esports lab when I was a high school student and also be a part of building many middle school and high school labs. It is so cool to see the looks on everyone's faces when those labs come in. And if you are a teacher or an educator or an administrator watching this, do know, I'm speaking from experience, I am on this desk because I had a high school esports lab, and that's where my career started. That's where I met people like Bear. It's where I met the Stay Plugged In team that brought me here. So seriously, take a look at it, and those labs are just a few pictures of what you could dream of having.
The GP about to cook up, boys. We're almost there, but we do need to take a quick break as we load things up. But don't go anywhere. You're watching the Formula STEM Esports Cup on the Stay Plugged In Network. Lane X, TJ, and Bearlight back with you here for the Formula STEM Esports Cup as we gear up for the GP now at Brazil. As we see the track one more time in representation as far as what these players are up against here tonight. TJ and Lane, take it away.
Well, Brazil is the stage of many popular Formula One moments in history, and I don't need to be the one to tell you. Lane, you're the native to Brazil here. You tell me about what you're looking at this track and what to expect.
It's gonna be amazing. I love how tough it is to the drivers, and based on what we just saw in the previous sessions, TJ, I would say, and Bear, I would say that the drivers struggle the most, in the sector number 2, and also on that full speed section from turn 12 to 15 especially, and after that obviously the first chicane. So these are portions of the racetrack we gotta keep an eye on.
I mean, Sector 2 is easily the biggest focus. That is not just any series of turns that you see. It is one of the toughest series of turns that these drivers have to go through here in the Formula STEM Esports Cup. And now we are about to present all the action your way. But very briefly, Lane, I will talk about the qualifying results previously. There was 2 separate lobbies. We did have a few drivers get eliminated, but now we have our best. I believe it was finally set to 21 total drivers. I think we had a driver disconnect. We will figure that out, obviously, once we actually get to the grid. But Top Racing and No Need Dude are set to officially have their first full battle after Top Racing DNF'd on lap 1 last week.
Correct, yeah. It's gonna be interesting to see these guys battling directly, because they haven't faced each other on a GP. It's gonna be massive, super cool to watch. I'm really interested in seeing how they're gonna be chasing each other and fighting for space, but not only them, right? I gotta mention the 3J guys. Let's see what James, Joseph, and Jukai are gonna be doing today. We didn't mention the 3J guys, but they could make it to the playoffs. I'm interested to see how they're going to be rolling their strategies today, especially to be quick, because they have been improving their pit stop strategies since the past GP to now.
I mean, if you want to throw letters into this, I'll throw 3 N guys on for you. How about Nico,
right.
No Need Dude, and then hear me out, Ian. There's an N in there somewhere, right? So let me just say those 3. It's going to be
Correct.
a lot of talent on the grid once we finally do hit this GP qualifying, which, again, to translate the format to the viewer's way, it is one-shot qualifying, which all that means is that your drivers will spawn in with nobody on the grid but them and their car, and they only get one chance to prove what can they do. And without further ado, it is a beautiful Tuesday for some Formula racing, and the drivers are off in their qualifying.
It's drenching, even more than in qualifying sessions. I love this. There's a lot of water. There's more water than the racetrack itself, but good to see how these guys are going to be performing here to find their grid positions. TJ, as Top Racing already falls back a lot. I don't know exactly what is happening, but yeah, he's dropping so fast.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened there at all, as Cry had some issues, didn't even get started with their lap, so they will be immediately bumped down to P19. But yeah, for Top Racing, I'm very confused as to what happened on that very first sector. But as you can see, they will be taking a pretty stiff attempt at trying to make their way back up the grid, but it doesn't look like they're gaining too much time here. Already sitting at 45 seconds, coming around the end of Sector 2. It's not where you want to be. You normally want to see that be around 41 to 30 something, but regardless, Top Racing hasn't jumped a single place at all here in Sector 2. We will have to see how it updates, but in the meantime, No Need Dude sitting comfortably in P1. Illegal Monkey and Hardware up there as well, and everything looks normal other than Mile Proto, who's sitting at P10, and now these drivers will make their way around the final bend. So far, everybody looks just about how they were predicted to go, other than Top Racing, who has been falling, who has been fading. No Need Dudes has a 119.2. Every driver now starting to finish, and now you'll see that Top Racing was one of the 3 drivers who had a tough moment at the beginning, but wow, Lane, the margins at the top are hairline.
The hairline, it's amazing to see how close they were. And indeed, for Top Racing, curious now to know what happened, especially in the first portion of the lap. I guess he spun, we couldn't see. Obviously, it's hard to keep track of all the elements happening here, but yeah, tough for him, not ideal. But yeah, when it comes to the top drivers, TJ, we could see almost a repetition from the first qualifying session, obviously with some additions from qualifying 2. And we see how close the times were. Absolutely interesting.
Also, it says the Top Racing has left the session, so I'm not sure. Maybe there was a disconnect that had happened. We will have to see, because we're supposed to be going directly into the race here. We don't have any updates just yet, but as of right now, we are expected to go on as normal. So I'll talk about this. No Need Dude, 8/10 ahead of the rest of the grid. That dominance that they've been able to set has been absurd, and it looks like it's only going to get worse for the rest of the grid. But now Squeaky Hardware is making their stand back towards the top. 24K and Nico have struggled a decent amount, and hey, we're back with our faces on cam. So it looks like that Top Racing did DC, and we will be getting him back in shortly.
There you go. That's the update we were kind of looking for. I was not anticipating seeing him down that list. I was like, he's going to have to pull a Max Verstappen of Brazil in 2024 from the 13th spot. And maybe he'll still have to, depending on what the ruling is here. So we'll get that word in just a little bit here, guys. Things to note here. No Need Dude obviously running the table here. I'm not sure I've seen him run over a 120 lane. I mean, he has been that good all throughout today.
He has been massive, right? Such a stability, kind of driving, also knowing how to change the tires all over the past GPs, obviously, but today so solid, right? So sublime, so supreme, and define the laws and the challenges we have from Brazil, because believe me, you know, spinning is real in Brazil. Remember this, and the pun was intended. Remember this line here, because it is going to be tough for all of them, TJ.
Well, here we go. Another driver's already hit the side, and it was No Need Dude, who I think just left the session. I think they may have crashed out already. I'm not sure what just happened there. We'll get an update to you soon, and it looks like that No Need Dude is fine. All the drivers are stopping, and I don't know what in the world is happening here. I mean, we're definitely... Virtual safety car is already out. Drivers are all over the grid. I would imagine that we're going to have to restart the race, but it looks like maybe not. I guess we're going to roll through it. I'm not sure what's going on here.
Yeah, it seems kind of buggy. Let's hear Bear on that. All of them having penalties. I mean, at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I'll translate for everybody here. So what's happening is that all the drivers, when a yellow flag comes out, you can't pass a driver. But unfortunately, every driver was making their way around when we saw that come out. So I believe we are going to reset the race. That should be the right thing to do. So we'll have an update for you shortly. But hey, once again, welcome back. It's a pleasure to have you. Yeah, Bear, I'm going to throw this one to you because I don't have any words.
I missed you guys. It was very short before we got to see each other once more. Yeah, back into the lobby we are, and we're going to create a new lobby for it. So I believe the wreck off the bat caused a bit of chaos there, and because half of the chorus basically just crashed and or spun out based on that first starting point. We're going to get things started once again. So virtual car came out when we had a couple of wrecks right off the bat and gave penalties to basically everybody. So we're like, hey, listen, we're going to restart the grid. So that being said, Lane, it's very important to note that now that all this chaos is ensued, it's going to be the coolest head that will prevail, at least in the first half or so of this race.
Oh, 100%. You got to be cool mentally, especially to seize those spots, and just like No Need to was doing. But apparently in this attempt of start of GP here, he was caught in the middle. The traffic was a little buggy, and all the cars were feeling something there in the field. So let's see how that's going to roll. I'm interested to see how these guys are going to be performing. A lot can happen, and we will have to remember and remind you guys from home that the points now matter more eventually than the top 3 spots, right? Because we're talking about the management of that performance, not on one week specifically, but all over the way. So let's see how they're gonna be doing that.
Yep, we have to, again, mindset has to be sharp coming in. So for those of you who are just joining us and wondering what the chaos is all about, a lot of crashes happened right off the rip. So we're like, hey, better than just restart altogether here. So, but that being said, we'll get you in momentarily. A lot of the chatter that we saw in amongst the drivers before this race even kicked off was the fact that it was going to be chaotic. And sure enough, they got a taste of that in just lap 1, TJ.
I mean, for those of you who watched the preseason, chaos is kind of the name of the game. Obviously, having a Scholastic Racing League is a very cool feature, but none of these racers are professionals. So with that, mistakes like this are bound to happen. And also, speaking of those potential crashes, I want to talk about 2 different parts of the starting grid that I am already worried about. At the very top, at P3 and 4, is Squeaky Hardware and Joseph, which for us here in the booth, we are very familiar with what those 2 drivers bring, and it's a whole lot of chaos and a whole lot of carnage. But even worse in terms of carnage, towards the bottom of the grid is Top Racing, Seagull, Mao, and Satyr, all directly next to each other. So I'm expecting somebody to lose their front and back wing and maybe even their car within the first 2 laps, because you don't get to crash on the first lap unless you do it to yourself like No Need to did. But yeah, that first lap is probably just a little bit of foreshadowing of what's to come, Bear.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And so we'll leave your imagination where it may be at this point in time, because we're going to have to invite everybody back to the lobby, to be honest. So it'll be a little bit of time, but don't worry. We're going to take a quick break in the meantime as we get it all sorted out. So we appreciate you hanging around here for the Formula Stim Esports Cup. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to the Formula STEM Esports Cup here. A bit of a chaotic start, but listen, we got everything together, we hope. And we'll be back on the track. So, guys, we're about to kick it off. TJ, I'll go to you. Expectations here. Do we see another crash in the first lap?
Yes. Without a shred of doubt, the rain is horrendous, and I'm thinking that these drivers got a little too comfortable with the used track of Brazil, where the dry lines start to appear lane.
Yeah, I don't know how they're gonna be dealing with this. After what just happened, mentally you gotta reset, right? You gotta forget everything that didn't work out nicely, and obviously trying to understand that the traffic on the first turns and all. And after we have the drivers spreading out a little bit more, to be honest, over the field, then we're gonna be seeing the standards and the trends and the patterns itself.
And as we're about to approach the track here, we're about to see lights out here in just a moment. And once we do here, we know the story is Top Racing. We'll keep eyes there on the back of the pack as they'll start from the starting grid from the 13th position. What are some of your key points here, TJ, before we go into it? Very quickly, very briefly, about what he needs to do in order to accomplish what will be a monstrous feat.
Well, the jobs are simple for him. Stay alive and stick to your gut. Top Racing is an extremely talented racer. There is no questions about that. He is a playoff guaranteed racer for that exact reason. He just has to stick to his gut and roll with the punches that this rainy track will deal with. I mean, Top Racing in our interview mentioned before, he said, I need to stop getting stuck in the pack because of the chaos and because of the skill gap between the top 5, top 6 racers compared to the rest. And so we are going to have to see if he is able to survive. But in the meantime, I do believe that we are officially ready to watch if this is a no-need dude dominant episode once again, or will we finally get what I think we deserve, is a Top Racing and no-need dude battle, Bear.
One way to find out. The lobby is loading in right now as we speak. Let's go down to the track here as we hit Brazil. And here we go. Lines up once more. Take 2 in action. TJ, take it away.
Well, here we go once again. It is a torrential, a diabolical downpour here, not too far from the Amazon if you were to guess based off of the weather. But without further ado, Bearlight will be our wonderful analyst. Lane will be next to me in the booth. My name is DJ TJ, and welcome to the green lights of Sao Paulo. As we'll hop right in. Lights do go green. Akaruki gets a drive-through penalty early. Drivers are already finding some room. Top Racing's up a spot. Doe Jr.'s up 3. Joseph's up on Hardware. 24K King is going to fall down. Nico comes up, and it will be Hardware already off and down to P15. Top Racing jumps to the top 10. James is up to P6, and drivers are not settling in by any means lane. It is go, go, go.
It's go, and it's survival mostly, and only dude repeating his performance from the previous sessions. I love to see those battles. The times, obviously the gap time is very, very short. Some drivers falling behind, like Mao. Let's see how they're going to be performing. But no need, dude, to set the pace, set the tone. Already trying to create almost a second versus Illegal Monkey. That's crazy to see. That's cool to see.
No Need Dude has got to take advantage of his P1 placement. He's got to be quick, and he's got to be fast early because a demon on the track is actually surviving this time. Top Racing has already made the jump from P13 to P4 before the collisions even turn on. But as we come around the final few turns here, you do know things are going to get diabolical, and Top Racing's in a very awkward spot. He's got Joseph very hot on his tail, who is, as we've mentioned, an extremely aggressive racer. Nico, the very, very talented rookie right behind him, but it is No Need Dude who will have almost a full second lead, and it's going to be him versus Illegal Monkey, a very familiar story of today's broadcast, but 24K King is almost directly on the tail of Illegal Monkey lane.
He is absolutely close to him. Yeah, chasing him off nicely. We can see the top 3 drivers at this point. And as far as like No Need Dude, we can see he fell a little bit of the competition because he needed 1 minute and 25 seconds, which is kind of much based on the qualifying times. But as we know, it's raining a lot, so it's still a very good time. He's still leading the pack.
Top Racing, you can see him in your camera frame right behind 24K King. It's like a horror movie how fast he's closing in. He is almost directly touching the backside of 24K King. It's something that we have to keep mentioning because it is that dire. Illegal Monkey is very close as well. Top Racing's in a beautiful spot. Needs to hold this position and needs to save the car's condition. Inside line, uses the grass, will try to stick it on the outside. Switch back of dreams for Top Racing. Will have to hold off. He does have a lane. Slight slide from 24K King. All 3 drivers in a direct line. 24K goes wide. Here comes Top Racing into the podium places in 2 laps time, but he is still on the tail of the other 2, Illegal Monkey and No Need Dude, who are trying their best to defend, but 24K King might make a run of his own. Way down the outside. Does make his way around. Does stick it as well. An early thriller here, Lane.
Fantastic passes and decisions on the hands of Top Racing. It was the opportunity right after the Sector 2 Sector 3 came, he was like, okay, I'm gonna take this opportunity, this chance of passing, but then, yeah, 24 King doing it also on that very long straight before the first chicane. So these guys are amazing, their quality is superb.
Oh no. 24K King goes wide, and Top Racing will take advantage extremely quick of that. He now has a great line compared to Illegal Monkey. These margins in the rain are only emphasized when you talk about your most talented drivers in the Formula 10 Esports Cup. No Need Dude, though, in 3 laps, has increased the gap from about a 10th off the start to 2 full seconds. So if you are Top Racing, the time to drive is now. You've got to make your way around Illegal Monkey, and then you've got to put your pedal down to the metal. Also worth noting, Mile Proto has fallen from 8th down to 15th. After a very tough start, he will be struggling. The top 10 is about as expected thus far. Also, Illegal Monkey goes wide. Top Racing's got the drive and the line, and our battle of our dreams may just happen, as it was actually Joseph and Nico that we were just commentating on. So Nico passes Ian after a slight scare there. Top Racing was close to Illegal Monkey up ahead, but did not make the pass just yet, and Joseph is stuck in the middle of all of it, Lane.
That was so cool to see how confident Nico was to fight a very good driver such as Ian Hawk. And Ian Hawk earlier today telling me that he was going to try to play safe today because of early traffic. He was confident on his setup. Let's see how things are going to be happening, because Top Racing is still at the top of his own racing, passing for Illegal Monkey. That was a crazy good movement, TJ.
24K King goes on the grass to try and make his way around. Won't stick it on Legal Monkey, but you just brought up Ian. I think you may have cursed him, Lane. He is down to P15. He just fell an absurd amount of places, and his race isn't over, but that is a tough mountain to try and climb from. It's a big gap, but in the meantime, here comes the battle of our dreams for real this time. Top Racing has made the drive from 13th to P2, and with a 3-second gap, with the entire race left to go, the 2 biggest brains in the entire Formula 10 Esports Cup finally get to battle. But in the meantime, the rest of the grid is as close as I think it has ever been. And also, one of the best battles to watch in all of this series is Seagull and Squeaky Hardware, the most aggressive drivers, not to mention that James is right behind them as well. So you talk about seeing crashes, those 3 are about to get at it.
Yeah, and we want to see that happening as we see a little bit of Illegal Monkey also, you know, having some instability. Yes, squeaky hardware, excuse me, and reinforcing are going to be great. But what? Oh, no, he went. Oh, no, man.
Seagull's car has turned into a hovercraft, and it was landing on top of Squeaky Hardware somehow, some way. I don't think Seagull has major damage. I think the front and the rear wing are still alive, but this is what I was talking about. These 3 drivers do not care about the lives of their virtual drivers. They will go absolute nail to the coffin for their points, but there goes Monkey, who I think it was actually somebody else who just took it off. Monkey tried to make a turn in, but just barely got sideways there. As I hate that we just switched off the POV of the fighting 7, 8, and 9 Ps right there, but we'll have to check in on that later. In the meantime, we do finally get to settle in on Monkey's drive, which so far, so good, holding on to their position, and it's going to be very similar to the qualifying race, where you just have to survive with the gaps that you're given. Meanwhile, Jakai, we almost catch him on a beautiful switchback. Does not stick it just yet, though. Has Mao defending quite well, and a pretty pink car, as No Need Dude is increasing his time by 5 to 6 tenths a lap almost at this raid. And in the meantime, Jakai still falls back. Mao has a lot of time, but also all the drivers have a lot of battery left to be used here. Expect a lot of overtakes. James just did it on this straight against Seagull. Can Jakai make something happen against Mao? I'm not sure, but Seagull's gotten it back on James. You just saw James try and take it down the grass, but in the meantime, these drivers still find themselves directly on top of each other.
It's crazy, and it's good because, like, we were just seeing Jukai, right, versus Mao. Jukai, as we see a little bit of reinforced Seagull passing James. This is a very cool battle to see, of course. But mentioning quickly about Jukai, man, he was not confident today about the grips of his wheel. He was telling me, hey, I don't think my time today is good. But there it is. Look at what he's doing versus Mao, totally passing or having the chance to pass in a little bit. He was still finding that opportunity, still behind her now. But reinforced Seagull, trying to secure that spot, over James. This is going to keep very, very interesting.
Great move down the inside for Siegel. That car is struggling to make its way around these corners. This track is still extremely wet, and the drivers are struggling. But in the meantime, the only driver who seems to have this entire condition down to a T is No Need Dude, who has now in 7 laps taken the gap from the start to then 3 seconds, about 4 laps in, to now almost 6 seconds, 7 laps in. No Need Dude has been incredible ever since he debuted, and it only seems to be getting worse for his rivals.
Absolutely. I don't know if someone is going to be able to catch him. And you know why? Because each single lap he's increasing at least half second to 1 second fully. This guy is a beast, and he's gonna keep leading the pack as we see a little bit of 24 King trying to fight for his life and keep Joseph behind the most he can. As we know, Joseph is a very good late driver on the late portions, obviously, of the GPs, and let's see if he's gonna be able to keep that momentum and in quality, especially in aggressiveness versus 24 King.
I mean, this is almost the dream top 9 based off of points. We are missing Ian Hawk, who is still trying to make their way back up the grid. But in terms of the points, in terms of the talent, these 9 racers that you're looking at right now have been nothing short of extremely impressive in their strategy calls and their actual mechanical skill to move this car around. But here in Sao Paulo, the track is not like any other. It is very fast-paced, but yet it also really tests your skill in Sector 2, as No Need Dude once again sets, I believe, the 4th straight fastest lap for them. But in the meantime, No Need Dude has actually managed to lap Akaruki.
Absolutely.
So finding some room to put a car between him and another racer, that's going to be very important down the road. Not to mention the entire grid obviously struggling against each other. Like here we go with 24K King and Joseph. That gap will temporarily increase, but notice how Joseph is using the dry part of the track compared to 24K King, whose line was maybe a little too far on the inside. Both will go under heavy braking here. We'll stick it wide and try and keep that speed coming through, but Joseph had the overtake but decided to brake after, I think, 24K King maybe accidentally brake checked him. But now also the virtual safety car has come out because Akaruki has crashed, and so I don't believe we're going to see a real safety car, but no overtakes and no high speeds right now, Lane.
Right, on Joseph, quickly, if he decided not to take the overtake or the pass on that opportunity, maybe he was feeling the need to cool down his engines. I mean, he had the chance, he had the geographic opportunity. If he's not taking that, it's because he's not trusting his resources, his car, his grip to keep ahead or defend himself versus 24 King after a potential overpass. But now we see the virtual safety car, as you mentioned, that's going to change, obviously, things around, especially for No Need Dude. Those gaps are going to get a little tighter. Let's see how that's going to play out.
Now it seems like a great time to let Bear give his analysis. We're not going to see these drivers pit. It is too early for a call like that. But Bear, one of the most interesting points about a virtual safety car is that you cannot overtake and you must keep your pace. But Top Racing and Joseph decide to pit here, Bear.
They're going to take an early pit, just take the risk and say, hey, maybe we can make something happen, really just start to dial in and take it from here. The intermediate titers going on here for Top Racing as he'll skittle out of that pit box. And so now intermediate titles as well from Joseph. They like the look of this conditions that are outside, as the rain now has basically gone to just a drizzle. They expect things to dry up and not go back to a steady pour. So that decision very early and good to see there too. I'm surprised we didn't see that from Ian Hawk, who's battling with a lot of that traffic that we saw since he spun out with that engagement with Squeaky Hardware just a little bit ago.
That virtual safety car got upgraded to a physical safety car. As you can see, the Aston Martin right there leading the way for all of the drivers, which now means that these gaps are going to get extremely close between the entire grid, considering once they all manage to catch up. As you can see, Nico and Squeaky Hardware are rushing their way around the track along with the rest of the grid to catch up very quickly to the rest of the pack. And then once that is done, it looks like we will get back to full racing speed. But wow, Lane, I mean, Top Racing and Joseph going on the intermediates on lap 9 here. It's a very bold call.
It's a very bold call, yeah, indeed, to try to now have the fresh tires. Let's see how they're going to be playing that one. And again, the timing on the side of Top Racing when it comes to changing the tires is amazing. He has been this way forever. He was obviously the champion of the Austrian GP, having the chance to change before everybody else and guiding the guys on that matter. I love to see how he does that. And also, TJ, we have to remind ourselves of something. Top Race is a very good recovery driver. So absolutely, it's not at all a point of worry for him or for anybody else. How he gets back to the leadership, as I mentioned, not only him, but Joseph, these guys are good at getting there.
The entire grid will follow suit and switch to intermediates, and everybody other than No Need Dude and Illegal Monkey and Mao and Mile make the decisions to switch over at the top. This is now a completely new ball game for No Need Dude. Bear brought up an incredible point that yes, the track, you can notice that drizzle is very noticeable compared to the heavy rain that we first saw. And in the meantime, look at Illegal Monkey just trying to slowly ease his way around the inside of No Need To, just in case the safety car does disappear, which it physically won't here in Sector 2. It will have to be on the final straight that I believe will get to full racing speed. But this right here, these are the moments that whenever you get to the playoffs and you look at those points and you miss out on a spot or two, you have to look at these decisions right here and wonder, did I make the right one? Well, half the grid says yes and half the grid says no, because it is almost split down the middle lane between the intermediates and the wets.
Correct. Some of these guys, could be having the dividends. Some of the other guys could be just regretting not changing their packs. Again, let's see how Jukai, Seal, Satir, Dog Jr., again, Mile Proto, how these guys are going to be dealing with those old wets now that things are changing. And yes, all the points going to matter. And this GP is getting so much interesting, right? I'm loving to see the safety car back again, TJ. I cannot emphasize that enough. It's so cool to see how this changes things in his strategies.
Amen to that. Last time we had the safety car, we saw Top Racing who was at the front. He slowed everybody down and then absolutely let it rip. And now No Need Dude is going to do what I believe is the same, as here comes full racing speed the moment that the light goes green, or the flag goes green, I mean. Also, Joseph picked up a penalty for a little bit of misconduct on the safety car, a 10-second penalty at that note. So here we go. Safety car is in, full racing has begun, and also Ian Hawk has picked up a 10-second penalty. His race continues to be almost nightmare fuelish, and in the meantime, No Need Dude will hop out to a quick lead. Joseph will take a spot, and Top Racing will actually go toe-to-toe around a few turns in a row there, but now No Need Dude and Illegal Monkey have got to hurry up because they are on older tires on conditions that are not favoring the wets. I'm not sure where lane is, so I guess I'll pick it up from there. Once again, No Need Dude and Illegal Monkey are leading, but only have a second, really, between Top Racing and the rest of the grid. But Mao and Mile have made their way up into the deeper part of the grid. Mao is all the way up into P4, as Mile is also into P8. So these intermediates, I don't know if it's too early yet. Bear, so far on this very first full racing lap, what are you seeing regarding the performance of those tires?
Right now, the 10 laps, as we saw in qualifying, the qualifying races specifically, No Need Dude got better as time grew on. So I'm really thinking that they really have confidence in these wheels in order to, these tires in order to keep going. But you see a bit of a mishap there as 24K King, a bit of a spin out. We saw from his in-car camera that it says a famous quote from Michael Schumacher, which is, first you have to finish. Well, you got to be clean in order to do that.
Top Racing has already grabbed the fastest lap, just one lap in. No Need Dude is in a very dangerous spot, and it's only a matter of time before Top Racing begins to chip off on those lap times. But No Need Dude does not decide to pit yet. Neither does Illegal Monkey. You'll see him try to pinch Top Racing off on the corner here, but Top Racing has made the move up into P2. The green car matches the intermediates beautifully, and that chemistry is all out for display on the racetrack here. No Need Dude went off on the side a little bit earlier, but seems to be surviving. In the meantime, James also took a little bit more grass or water than they would have liked, and Nico is gonna try and use that to their advantage, but everybody has to look at Monkey, Mao, and No Need Dude. Those are three critical spots. Two actual playoff clinching spots are in that equation, and these drivers, they need to pit now, Bear. I mean, they're losing major time. Mao just fell another spot.
Yeah, and Top Racing has now closed the gap. He's about a second and a half away from No Need Dude in addition to that. Plus, you see for 24K King working his way up as well. And the more time you lose, the more that you have to deal with this pack. So you're not doing yourself favors by staying out here. You got to get to the pit lane ASAP. Otherwise, you're just battling yourself at this point.
No
Yes.
Need Dude is still deciding to take it, as in the meantime, I appreciate Mr. Bearlight stepping in. We will welcome Lane back into the casting booth. Lane, you missed out on a decent amount of action here. What are you noticing?
No, I was actually checking my notes, and I apologize. It was just a misunderstanding here, but it's fine. Again, we have to point out some elements here. Ian Hawk, as I was going to say before, for the second time getting those penalties, struggling with some movements, some decisions, and it's cool to see how these racers are searching for the result and things are changing. And I love to see that the pack is kind of making justice to the previous GPs as well, also the qualifier when it comes to No Need Dude and Top Racing. And all of them, almost all of them with the intermediates. And yeah, it's going to keep so interesting as we reach the middle portion of the race, DJ.
Top Racing is directly on the tail of No Need Dude. This final straight is going to spell disaster for No Need Dude. He needs to find some time to pit. Top Racing will try to cut off his inside lane if he can be quick enough. And it looks like right here on turn 15, that's exactly what he will be able to do. All of the battery will be deployed, but so will No Need Dudes. And No Need Dude still doesn't pit. Wow. This is an absurd call and a crazy defensive call from him as well. And Top Racing's already made the pit, which means that these intermediates are going to be the final tire in their race strategy. So No Need Dude making a incredibly dangerous call, basically saying that I can outrace you.
Yes, he's saying that I can resist, I can defend against you. Very, very bold call. Look at him trying to protect now from the right as well. He managed to do so. What a cold-blooded buddy, right? But yeah, paying a little bit on his gamble here, surpassed by Top Racing. It was a matter of time, TJ, for all of us who enjoy racing and know a little bit of racing. Yeah, it was a matter of time. He was doing such a great job, but not for a long time.
Also, in the meantime, worth noting is that the entire top three of this race is playoff qualified racers, meaning that as of right now, nobody extra is going to earn a playoff qualification spot if it stays this way. Siegel, James, and Squeaky Hardware are all three members who would love to get a chance at earning a playoff qualifying spot this early, but they've got to survive to that point. 24K King, very hot in the tail of No Need Dude as well, and now No Need Dude, after getting past, will they decide to finally hit the pit lane? It looks like the answer for another lap in a row is no. 4 straight laps of No Need Dude just banking on those wets working, but unless he knows something that we don't, I am very confused here, and Top Racing has got to go fast here.
Oh man, he's gonna begin doing what No Need Dude did before, right? To all the other opponents, meaning increasing that gap. But yes, I want to know what is going on with him. Totally gambling again, batting all those old tires, not only him, but Mao as well, and Mile Proto. But the difference is, of course, when it comes to the grid positions and on the field. But Top Racing, the leader so far, and as I said before, such a good recovery driver, now fighting to increase that gap. Yes, that's so cool to see. No Need Dude is going to have to fight. He's going to have to get out of that uncomfortable situation. And usually that doesn't happen to him, but there it is.
There's very few drivers who are on the grid right now who can bet on a skill gap. No Need Dude is easily one of them, and that's exactly what they are betting on. The time between them and 24K King has increased, and in the meantime here, Ian Hawk and Joseph, who were sitting at I believe 13 and 14, have now slowly made their way up, but they both each have 10-second penalties. But in the meantime, No Need Dude, will they finally decide to pit, trying to hold that inside lane, and finally no, not again! Still just holding that inside, but not going for the pit lane, and 24K King is way closer to No Need Dude than they were before. A little bit of bumping there, and a very wide line for 24K King, trusting the grip of those intermediates, but Top Racing has set another fastest lap, has gained another second to go, and we are now under 10 laps to go, Lane.
Under 10 laps, it's amazing to see the battle between them and 24 King now trying to get closer. He's super close, and No Need Dude, again, batting, and he's gonna maybe be beaten on that matter. I don't know if he's gonna be able to resist furthermore. I mean, he's doing what Joseph did back in some GPs weeks ago, TJ. It's gonna be tough to see, how that's gonna roll.
This is the call. This has got to be it right here. No Need Dude was aware that the track may have dried up completely. I believe that's what he's holding out for, because Monkey, Jakai, and Mile Proto have all pulled out dry tires here on lap 16. We knew the track was going to get drier, but I don't think we expected it to get completely dry. Towards the end lane, there is almost no moisture or water left on this track, and No Need Dude may have played his cards just right if he could pit a lap earlier than Top Racing.
Oh my god, that was so smart, right? Waiting for the guys to show their cards. You're correct. I want to see that happening. Let's see if that's going to be the case. Potentially, yes, because you're correct. We don't see rain anymore, and that's going to change the landscape of things. And also, he already built some level of advantage versus 24 King. He was a little less than what it is now. Anyways, 24 King doesn't want to know about that, and it's also trying to cut that down.
No Need Dude, Top Racing, and 24K King all passed the line as I was talking about those medium tires, and No Need Dude has still not made the decision to pit. In the meantime, Siegel and Nico will now pull out softs a lap earlier than them, so things are going to get really dicey, not just for No Need Dude, but the entire top 7 of the grid if they don't decide to pit here. I mean, the forecast is something you can watch in the bottom right, not from our perspective, but from the actual driver's perspective, so I'm not exactly sure what they're seeing that we are not. That may lead to these strategy calls, but they are really going to start losing time on these wet tires unless they all pit right here. All the drivers are making their way around. 24K King almost finds the overtake on No Need Dude, but here we go. It's time to make a decision. Top Racing leads the way. The pit lane is within sight, and it looks like Top Racing will make the decision to hit the pit lane. I would imagine all 3 drivers will go at the same time and decide to go for soft tires, but No Need Dude, once again, will try to make a bet and stay out. This is, again, another crazy ego call. Top Racing will pull out medium tires. We'll see what the other drivers like to pull out. It seems that it will be for 24K King, who was at the end of the pit lane. We don't get to see his tire changes yet. It is softs for 24K King. And now, which driver can make those dry tires work? And No Need Dude has a big gap, but without pitting and going for this long, I don't know if he's going to be able to gain time during that pit.
He's losing it. You can tell. Squeaky Hardware, you know, is already on his neck. He's so close. He's gonna cut that gap time, man. But No Need to. What a genius when it comes to the tires and pit strategy, right? My God, that's so cool. I mean, he's playing so well on those decisions today. When it comes to when to pit stop, not so far, not yet. I love to see how far he's gonna be going. And all the other drivers, some of them actually going for the softs, which you could kind of expect because you're coming from a wet racetrack, right? The field is not totally dry, so you got a chance to use those faster, in this case, like the softer dry tires, which is gonna offer you an additional interesting grip. But yeah, interesting to see now he's finally stopping TJ. What a crazy moment.
No! 10-second penalty for No Need Dude, just barely over the line. That is a critical, potentially race-ruining penalty. And Squeaky Hardware, meanwhile, on intermediates, has set the fastest lap time. So now the narrative completely shifts its way around. Can Squeaky Hardware and James make these intermediates work for long enough? Because Top Racing, watch that time interval very carefully, as we'll have to see if he can start cutting the time down. Right now it's at 14 seconds, but I'm expecting that to change quickly, but that is a absolute race burner for No Need to their lane.
All right, my God, what's happening here? Top Racing feeling the pressure. Those mediums now at work for him. Maybe still gonna be able to hold the podium because of that change. And we have new names here upcoming as well, right, TJ? We have Saturn. We could see someone else stepping up, but actually, yeah, James has been doing actually such a good job in this last portion of the racetrack here. Yes, I don't know what is gonna happen. It's totally unpredictable.
I mean, Ian and Nico, 24K King, and No Need Dude, and Top Racing are all decently far away from the podium spots, as Squeaky Hardware once again has set the fastest time on intermediates, and now he is going to make the ego call to go the extra laps with James here and try to continue to gain extra time. Meanwhile, No Need Dude is on those dry tires on the backside of Saturn, needs to make a move here and will do so exactly. A 10-second penalty he has to try and shed off now, and that right there is the first step of doing so. But in the meantime, also worth noting is that Ian has shed off his penalty, And also, if my notes are correct here, Joseph has served his penalty as well. So both those drivers spent extra time in the pit lane to shed those off. Will No Need to do the same or decide to just stick it out? I'm not sure, but again, here, Top Racing has already cut that gap that we saw before, 3 seconds off. So for Squeaky Hardware and James, you need to pit ASAP or else you may just fall down potentially 10 places. And Doe Jr. sets the new fastest time all the way down in P13. A lot of moving pieces here. So Bear, 5 laps left to go. What in the world is your prediction here?
There's hardly any way that you can tell exactly how this is going to shake out. Squeaky and James still on, like you mentioned, 10 laps deep here at this point on those intermediate tires, and a potential for them to come in if possible. Caution in Sector 2, but this should still not affect things. So with 5 laps to go here, No Need Dude with a 10-second penalty out of the question, in my opinion. You got Top Racing running 1:12.806. So right now, Top Racing certainly has my vote, especially when you're on 3-lap-old medium tires.
We know that those tires are quicker because they're dry and the track is dry now, but that is almost a 5-second gap to Squeaky Hardware's time that he set. So the narrative is still going to be very closely watching the weather, and maybe the rain could start back up again and hold Top Racing off and could give James and Squeaky Hardware their very first podium places and also playoff qualification spots, because they both had decided to try and stick this race out. But again, Top Racing 2 laps ago had a 14-second gap. He has cut it in half here. And No Need Dude, even with that 10-second penalty, is not too far behind the rest of the grid. So for Squeaky Hardware and James, you've made your bold calls, but now can you actually survive for 4 whole laps, Lane?
That's going to be the biggest issue and one of the most interesting battles, to be honest, here. And it's not quite a battle of you versus opponents, right? But it's like you versus your car. Is he going to be able to hold up to the pressure as we see Top Racing catching up, getting so close, going for the wide. Oh man, this is such a cool moment.
1:10.705 for No Need Dude. That's almost a whole second faster than what Top Racing was setting. And also, that is a soft tire. So No Need Dude, even with the 10-second penalty, may have made the right call in trying to gather as many places as possible. But Top Racing and James do intertwine. James has been sent off, and his playoff guarantees are now going to be solely in the hands of No Need Dude in that 10-second penalty. Saturn is also fighting 24K King on very struggling tires. 24K King actually went off the track, so Saturn is in it was Saturn, I believe, who may have fallen down there, and now we're going to see more car debris get knocked off, as I can't even tell what's going on anymore, as everybody can tell. And in the meantime, Saturn is just trying to gain as many points as physically possible. But it looks like 24K King recovered and is already past Saturn. Not just yet. Bumping. Oof. Grass is in play. Another play. And I think 24K King almost spun there. Will save the car. But pay attention to the gaps in the top left. No Need Dude and James are now getting close together. He is now past James with 3 laps to go. James needs to try and stay within range. But Saturn on the wet tires. They are old. They are struggling, and they have now cost him 4 positions.
Oh man, yeah, he's losing the positions now. As we can see, these battles up to the top 8 positions, everything can change for them. But yeah, I would say from actually top 5 to top 8, but the first 4 drivers totally feeling the adrenaline. And James now, yeah, with old tires, is gonna be able to hold up or catch up to No Need Dude. Let's see how it's gonna happen. 2 laps, DJ.
This is the dream scenario here for Squeaky Hardware. Now all you have to worry about is fighting between James and the 2 dry tire drivers in Top Racing and No Need Dude. That 20-second gap, I think, is physically impossible to knock off in 2 laps. But here in the meantime, Top Racing has found his way back into P1. Hardware goes off into the grass. Has to be careful, as with just 2 laps to go, you just need to bring the car around, and you've got to hold off James as well. Those 2 will almost certainly be fighting for a championship qualifying spot, as now Squeaky Hardware makes the decision late to actually pit. I'm not sure if they're going to get out in time, but No Need Dude goes 1:10.3. Even with the penalty, James will now not pit and follow suit. He will try to make these intermediates stick for the rest of the race, but Squeaky Hardware with the pit will come back out, I believe, into P4. If the timing works out correctly, you see it on the top or bottom right of your screen, but the top left of the map, Squeaky Hardware actually just came out out in time. He will keep his spot right next to 24K King. He will get the overtake as well. So now with the playoff clinching spot on the line, can we see Squeaky Hardware find his way back to James, or can James hold that 8-second gap for just about a lap and a half? But also, Top Racing and No Need Dude, the battle of the century is just 2 seconds apart.
Oh man, yeah, 2 seconds. Let's see how that's gonna shake, because Squeaky Hardware, leading the pack, having his chance to be in the podium. Let's see how he's gonna do that.
24K King just got punted by Squeaky Hardware off of the side of the map. But that gap, once again, between Hardware and James, it is now 10 seconds apart. And with 2 laps to go, even on struggling intermediates, I'm not sure if Hardware's got it in him to make it happen. But here comes No Need Dude on the final lap. Has to make up a second and a half. Squeaky Hardware has to make up 10 seconds on those soft tires. Also, Mao has made their way into P5. So Top Racing, with his first official battle with No Need Dude after crashing last race. Can he regain glory here, Lane?
Can he? And Top Racing and No Need Dude doing the correct calls when it comes to the tires. Amazing job. It's good to see Mao obviously ascending as well, and James gonna have to hold up to Squeaky Hardware. A lot of mini battles here. Oh man, what is happening?
Here we go, last lap. No Need Dude still has that 10-second penalty, and so P1 is out of the equation, but can James potentially get into P2 for both the points and the playoff spot? It looks like that Hardware is getting that gap closer. It's only 7 seconds instead of 10 now, but I don't think there's enough time to make it work. You can see the drivers making the final bend, and after what has been an absurd, absolute mosh of events, Top Racing regains from a DNF and gets P1, brings it home. No Need Dude in the 10-second penalty will still find a way into P2, and James rounds the bend on the intermediate tires. We will see that young man in the playoffs as long as he goes through right here. Not a single driver to watch, and that he does. A bold call will work, and Squeaky Hardware tried to make an even bolder call with the pit. He could not do it. Mao, their very first time in the top 5. 24K King and Seagull across the line, very close. 2 tenths between them. Ian Hawk, a wonderful recovery drive, has to hold off Nico though, and they're going to be very close coming around, but it does look like that Ian holds off Nico, who recovered from his bad qualifying. Doe Jr., their first time in the top 10 as well. And in other news, look at P10 through P14 or P13. It is all very close. It will be a late issue for Mile, but he will still stay in P12. Joseph's penalty won't hurt him. He will stay in P13, and that right there is your grid lane. What a race!
What a race, a lot of changes, and I love to see James stepping up, you know, gambling on those old tires. What a race. I have no words to say, you know, how much we had 2 kind of races inside of the same GP. We're talking about a drenching, rainy one, and after that, a very interesting dry battle with those tires being even more important than they already are. So it was crazy to see those changes in those pit stop strategies changing the landscape of the GP.
A very deserved celebration for this podium right here. No Need Dude and Top Racing, the 2 best drivers that our league has to offer, go toe-to-toe off of crazy strategy calls, and it comes down to a 12-second gap because of that penalty. It was 2 seconds before it got applied, and to No Need Dude, that was a tough pit call, but he made it work even with the penalty. But even in bigger news, James, his very first podium, is now guaranteed a playoff spot. And as of the rest of the grid, Squeaky Hardware once again is left on the outside, knocking in. And Mao, an incredible drive, very deserving of the in-game driver of the day title. We have not seen Mao fight for a top 10 ever since the preseason started. Now finds their way all the way into P5. And as we bring Bear back into the conversation here, dude, that was cinema.
It was at its finest from the get-go. There was so many things to track, so many moving pieces. So my ADHD was I had very difficult time trying to track it down. But what a performance it was from Top Racing as well, who I was talking about from the get-go. Can he do and pull off the Max Verstappen like we saw at Brazil rain day in 2024? And sure enough, he was able to just traverse what I thought was going to be chaos after that first initial false start that we had a little bit earlier. But he was able to get it done there too. But the battle that we saw between James and Squeaky Hardware's tough decision to go and pit late, unfortunately may have cost him a spot there on the podium, which means no playoffs, at least not yet, but we'll have plenty of regular season races to get it done, plus the point system as well. So sure enough, he'll probably get in, but that battle in itself was just a mind game at its finest. I'm a big fan of chess here, TJ, and in lane, that's exactly what we got here today.
That's what we wanted. That's what we got. I love it. I love the recovery power again from Top Racing, coming out from the shadows in the last week to now rise again to the podium. I love that for him. I love Noni Dude being very steady as well, both on the raining portion and the dry one today. And also, how these guys were fighting so badly until the end. And Squeaky Hardware, having a taste. He's almost there. Again, not happening for him. Third time in a row of him not being so lucky on slide elements in the racetrack. So it was a brilliant day. It was massive. I loved it.
I mean, just sticking to your guns was the recipe for James, too. I think that was one of your pre-race, TJ, your pre-race requisites as far as how you find success here today. By just going, hey, listen, regardless of what the weather brings, I still want to go with this wet to intermediates and just keep it at that. Just one pit stop and let's see what happens. And James got a podium because of it. Was it the right strategy at the end of the day? You can debate that all day long, but it got you at top 3 at the end of the day.
I mean, the battle was simple. The gap was large enough between James, Squeaky, and the rest of the grid to where they could have stayed out and fought on those intermediate tires. And if Hardware maybe pulled that move out a few laps earlier, maybe we're looking at a different story, but it was too little too late. James is a good enough driver to make those intermediates last for 3 extra laps, did a beautiful job at keeping that gap. If we go an extra 2 laps, that is the difference between Hardware going to the championship and James going to the championship. But even sadder than Hardware being on the outside knocking in, Illegal Monkey was P2, and we just completely haven't talked about that yet. He was P2 before we started. He ended this race at P14.
Yeah, an unfortunate showing there for Illegal Monkey, who did not have the best of races. You could say the same for Ian Hawk, too. Two individuals who we saw in qualifying races specifically absolutely pop off. Lane, it's when you get into the moments, when you have all those drivers out there, plenty to distract you, but also just unfortunate moments, like for Ian Hawk, for example, in his run-in with, yes, Squeaky Hardware a little bit earlier. So we talked about having to kind of track those loose cannons, if you will. Some glass cannons is probably better put because of their upside, but that's the unfortunate reality that you see from Ian and Illegal Monkey. So I do want to ask you, if you're Ian, if you're Illegal Monkey, how do you forget about today? Because today just didn't quite go your way.
Well, I wouldn't say totally forget about it, but we watch it and checking, the transition from early to late portions of the GP itself, because, things changed. That transition, right, of weather as well, totally, entirely shaked up things. So they should really rewatch it, I would say. But yeah, I mean, obviously sleep well. Don't just allow yourself to not rest because of today. I think it was a very good lesson, and there's a lot of today or from today that they could definitely take to Belgium next week, to be sure.
Halfway through the regular season, guys, and it has already been one to remember here in the initial season of this incredible activation. So once again, we want to give a big shout out to Brightspeed Fiber Internet, which is here, and it's ultra fast internet that you've been waiting for. Now everyone in your house can stream, they can game, they can do more, all at the same time. Brightspeed technicians ensure your fiber internet works all over your house, so you can too. No more searching for that one spot in the house to take your video call. Don't settle for slow and unreliable anymore. Switch to Brightspeed today at go.staypluggedin.gg/BrightspeedApril. Again, that is go.staypluggedin.gg/BrightspeedApril. Limited availability in selected areas. So, ! Brightspeed in chat, and that'll bring up that special deal here for you. So make sure you jump on that also. Guys, they've been able to create something incredibly special here halfway through the season. So now I'll toss it over to you, TJ. What are you expecting here in the second half of the regular season?
I mean, this race was a big checkpoint. I really do hope there's at least one more race in this season where we do get a little bit of rain. But even we weren't expecting, we had the insider knowledge, and we weren't expecting the track to be completely dry there at the very end. So that was absurd to see. But in terms of the back half of the season, things should return somewhat back to normal. The tracks will be dry. Spa is an infamous track. And for my sake as well, I like to think as a Rocket League caster, Bear, that me and you are able to handle fast-paced action. But I mean, the broadcast heard me struggle with this race many times because that is what this league and this Esports Cup racing series has given me. It's given me chaos. It's given me maybe a half a headache over on lap 10, but I'm just very happy to be here. And the back half of the season, I hope it is even half as entertaining as the first races have been.
As Siegel pointed out in chat as well, it's also given us 3 straight 7th place finishes from Reinforced Siegel. The most consistent driver there is out here, boys. What a performance. Again, just being able to get it done whenever they need it most. I found that quite humorous. So, with that being said, guys, in another great broadcast, we do have to let you know that we've got things coming up. The test session this Thursday as we head into the second half of this season. We'll be at Spa-Francorchamps this Thursday in preparation of the Belgian GP. So that'll start Thursday again at 5 p.m. Eastern time. At Belgium will be the next race. And Lane, you're there basically every week. You get to see the value of those pro drivers. You'll also see an amazing track that we'll go to next week.
Correct. Let's see how that's going to play out. We were talking about one of the longest GPs and racetracks on the entire F1 calendar. So if we saw a lot of endurance today, we're going to be seeing more of that. And of course, how important the pit strategy is going to be again.
Yeah, TJ, your thoughts rolling into next week, rolling into the second half again?
Again, I'm just very shocked at what we just witnessed. Every race we talked about in the green room seems to up itself as we go throughout the season, and it seems like that maybe the next race, maybe we'll have like 19 drivers out of the 20 that we have DNF. Who knows, right? You truly can't put a prediction on these races. And Spa, we talk about altitude, we talk about complexity and strategy. That is the longest track of the season that we have seen so far. It has one of the craziest altitude shifts out of any track in all of Formula One. Just when I think it can't get crazier, here we go again.
And we will be going at it again at 6 p.m. Eastern time, as always. Will be a race day next week on Tuesday, as always. Lane, TJ, Bearlight here with you again, and we appreciate everybody for tuning in. Until next time, take care. Good night.